Go. Welcome to week 10 of the Beginner Boost. We are meeting a little bit later in the day now, just in case you're wondering. It is excruciatingly hot outside right now, so I'm going to do the boost during the hot hours and then go biking or whatever during the early hours, but that's why I'm a little bit late today. Today, we are going to return to what we had originally planned. We're going to do the VimRC thing. So you'll remember last week we paused the boost to install a virtual machine. And so you should be running in a virtual machine. If you haven't done that yet, if you're still running in the Podman version, that's fine. Everything we're doing today will work in either one. I just strongly encourage you to take a moment and pause this video, go back and watch last week and install a virtual machine, because we haven't learned how to save stuff yet, right? And when I mean that, we're going to learn Git to preserve the stuff that we write. Everything that we're going to do today, you can just pull down my copy of it and just get a fresh one if you screw up or if WSL2 blows up on you, which is what happened to me. But if you'd rather not do that, you'd rather have your changes stick and be relatively safe, then I would go ahead and stop the video right now and go back and do that week and do the virtual machine installation. And if you don't know what VimR is, and you haven't ever used it before, then you definitely need to go to the week before that, week 8, and watch all 3 hours of how to use Vim. And in that, I know it's 3 hours, but if you just at least watch the first hour, because the first hour is going to do the minimum. There's only like 8 things you need to know about Vim to use it instead of Nano. And then the rest of it is all, kind of layered on top of that, right? So that's just a precursor. If you don't know how to edit with Vi and Vim, you're going to be really lost today. The reason that we taught Vim first is because everything else involves changing, files and stuff, configuring things. And that requires an editor. And the editor that's most guaranteed to be on most things is going to be VI. So, and if you want to hear about the balance between VI and Emacs and UM and all that, then again, 2 weeks ago, go watch that. So yeah, and there's lots of good stuff in the Discord as well. So again, let me just repeat the main topics, our goals for this 2 to 3 hours. It probably should go less than 2 hours. I know, famous last words, right? But all we're trying to do today is customize Vim. And as you look at my Vim, you're seeing some things that are already customized. So you see how I'm getting colors, right? That's a customization. VI does not do that by default. You see how I have like stuff over here, a ruler. You see over here I have a little bit left over from the file name. I have what type of program is being edited. I have the position. This is what I use instead of page numbers. I have my percentage down here. I have a little Pomo timer up here. That is tmux, and this up here is tmux. And you could argue that tmux could be done before this, before VimRC, before Vim in general, but tmux involves some configuration as well. So, Vim is really the first thing you need to learn, right? I mean, the major things you need to learn on the terminal after you get the terminal installed and some form of Linux are, the editor, Vim, and then how to have multiple screens open at the same time, tmux, screen or tmux, and then how to configure your shell itself, and in this case that's bash, right? And then sort of secondarily, but importantly, how to search from the command line, right? So how to do web queries from the command line, and this year we're going to try it. We're going to try to do chat GPT queries from the command line too. We're going to try that this year. It'll be the first time ever. So how to do, the thing is cool about doing a chat GPT query is you combine that with a Vim filter, and you could actually do a chat GPT query and then have it write the code and import it straight into your Vim session without any customization of Vim at all. All we need is a command that can talk to chat GPT API. So this is the first year the Boost is going to attempt to do that, but those are the 4 things. So, a Vim editor, tmux, bash, and bash/shell, and then research from the command line, which means links, W3, ChatGPT, things like that. Those are the main things that you're going to take away from here. And then I suppose the final thing is we are going to very, very, very briefly touch on Go, Python, and Bash. I mean, coding in Go and Python. So the only reason I thought about touching on Go and Python was just to give you a sense of like, here's how to program in 2 different languages. We are not going to go anywhere near that. Bash, however, we're going to read the whole man page on Bash. We're going to go through everything there is to know about Bash scripting. And for many of you, that will be your first language. And I have struggled. I'm just going to say I have really, really struggled with the whole chicken and the egg scenario when it comes to that sort of thing. Because as you can see, there's a lot of languages we can learn, right? And in fact, I'm toying with the idea of something called polyglot programming, which is something that I used to do. We would learn, at the time, we would learn Python, JavaScript, and C at the same time, a long time ago. But we're toying with the idea of a polyglot programming week or however many to do the same very, 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 very simple project in as many of these languages as we can manage. And R needs to get added. You absolutely R needs to get added to the list. R is so. The reason we would do that is kind of as a programming overview, so that you can see all the languages that are in use today and get a sense of what it's for, so you can pick the right language for the job. Even if you decide to program, that would be kind of like the idea is that would be kind of over here. Anyway. We would think. Let me just quickly change this. It would be polyglot programming, and it would just be an introduction to programming in all languages, and we would focus on the things that are the same across all of them. Thank you for that. Hats off. And so that's cool. Anyway, so whether that means that we're going to do any Go or Python at all in this is yet to be seen. I am going to show you, however, today how to set up your environment to code in Bash and Go, just so you can get a sense of what it takes. Python and Go, just to get a sense of what it takes to set up vimrc to do that. Okay, so how do I customize Vim and vimrc? To do this, I am going to create a new. You're probably logged in to if you're logged into your virtual machine, you still have the plain prompt. You haven't done any customization of it yet, and that's fine. That's plenty for you to use right now. But in order for me to simulate that, I'm going to have to create a new user account. So just give me a second here. I'm actually going to pause the video for this. Pause. Okay, so I've added a new user on my HPZ 640 here. The name of the user is user, so yours is probably user at whatever you decided to name your machine. And this at user, as you can see, has got nothing more than the default configuration for the system. Now, if we back up for a second, if you want to practice setting up a user from scratch without screwing up your main user, then, this is how you want to do that, right? So my main user has all been tweaked and configured and is lovely and all. But if you want to do that, then open up another terminal window, another SSH window, however you want to do it. Right now, you don't know about tmux, so you probably are managing 2 different windows or maybe just one. And open up that window and start making the changes to that user. So I sometimes will do this. I'll just fire up a new user and mess with it just to test, the default configuration. So let me give you an example of that. So we know about VI, right? So let's just edit a file, a random file. And as you can see, there's stuff already in this, but we'll get rid of that. It's a read-only file because it's owned by somebody else. Yeah, because I was using that. Let me exit. I see my exit. Let's just do foo. Let's just do foo like inside of this user's directory. There we go. Okay. So this is a VI session that's been completely uncustomized. It's just del user to delete a user. Yeah, of course use a Mac keyboard. Mac keyboard is the #1 keyboard used by all journalists, authors, artists, and programmers. Most programmers don't have a mechanical keyboard, believe it or not. It's also better on your carpal tunnel and everything. That's medically sound advice. Yeah. I have a mechanical keyboard for when I need one, but low profile keyboards are scientifically proven to be better than mechanical keyboards medically. So that's my take on that. Yep. All right. So I'm typing a bunch of things in here that are completely unrelated. But what I wanted to show you, a little profile. Yep. Global travel and stuff like that. Yeah. So anyway, so here we go. Let's talk about Vim here. As I said, the top line, just disregard it. The top line is what? Right? The top line is tmux. And this bottom line is an unconfigured Vim. So we see that it gives you a little bit of information, but not a lot, right? We already know that these tildes here are blank lines. We have a little bit of information about our position over here. This thing has always been a little bit confusing. This is the byte and the position combined, and I don't even know what that is. So the reason I'm showing you this is because this is a generic Vim, right? Now it's important that you know that you get even less than that when you're using VI, and I want to show you that really quick by pulling up Alpine. You can do this too if you want. You can just run, now that we know Podman, you can do Podman run it Alpine. Actually, let's delete it afterwards. We don't need it. Right, and this will run an Alpine. And so then when you use VI here, you can see you get even less, right? It puts over here, it puts the stuff here, and this and this. Now the Alpine, and then if you're using BSD or AIX or Solaris, then you would get about the same thing as this, but that is, you know, somewhat similar. In fact, if you want to see that exact thing, I don't know if you really want to, but if you want to, you can install NVI, not NVim, NVI, right? If you want to, you can install NVI and you can get a bug for bug compatible version of VI with the original VI, which is, by the way, you should know this by now, it's not really VI at all, right? It's X. VI stands for visual mode of X. The binary is the same. They're the same things. So if you wanted to do that, why am I showing you this? Because I want you to see the difference when you edit a file. Here you go again. So there you go, file, new file, line 1. So in every one of these cases, I isn't a VI command. Control I is not a VI command. If you want the most authentic Vim VI experience on the planet, use NVI, which is the standard editor that ships with BSD UNIX. That includes, you know, I suppose Darwin, although Darwin ships with Vim these days, and you know, anything open, FreeBSD, all of the BSD Unixes. And if you think that there's a reason to learn BSD Unix, there absolutely is. Most routers and Cisco equipment in the world are all running BSD Unix. So don't become a Linux bigot. Linux is kind of bloated, unnecessary shit sometimes, and BSD is way better for a lot of reasons. BSD is also much more secure than Linux. It has been known to be. It seems backwards. BSD seems a lot more backwards than Linux in a lot of ways, because it's not always adding new things, and that makes it very secure. It's a preferred pick for people that want to write very, very well hardened software. So OpenWRT, you know, any of these operating systems that have been designed to run on devices to do routing and stuff like that are almost always BSD. So when I say BSD and I say NVI is a standard editor for BSD, the reason I'm pumping BSD up is I don't want you to just dismiss that as something you're never going to use. You might actually need it. So there, and it's also important that you see the difference in the default, right? So Alpine is not NVI. Alpine is a sort of a weird version of X and NVI combined that's built into the binary. NVI is the standard editor, bug for bug compatible anciently with every version of VI that's ever existed, way back to 1970, whatever. So it is the standard for VI if you want to see if something is supported in VI. So for example, my beloved filter commands are not supported. So right, echo hello, right? My beloved bang bang, right? Wait, did they add it? Oh my God, they added it. They added filter commands to NVI. Ho, ho, ho. That must be a new version of NVI. Oh my God, that makes me so happy. That makes me so happy. That means it's not a Vimism. Yeah, I thought it was. It doesn't work in Alpine, but it does work in NVI. That is really great news. Anyway, so if you don't know what filter commands are, go back 2 weeks ago, week 8, and watch the VI. That's the only way to really do any kind of integration. All right, so let's get back to our customizations thing. We're running out of time here. So let's go back to that. So here we go. We have foo here. We already know how to edit, but we're missing some things, right? I mean, for one, we're not going to get syntax. Let's actually, you don't know any code that has syntax yet, so it would be hard for it to see. So what we're going to do is what we do every year, and I don't like this approach. It's just the best I can do for you. We're just going to go through the vimrc that I have, and we're going to talk about how to configure your Vim session. Okay. Again, this is Vim, all right? Vim and Vi. So the first thing to note is that, and actually one of the reasons I wanted to use NVI is, I wonder if NVI sees XRC. NVI foo. I'm just seriously, I want to test something here. All right, so the first thing you need to know is that if you're on a system that does not have Vim, that has Vi, that the name of the configuration file is not vimrc, right? So the name of the configuration file in that case is XRC, because as we said, we went through this, you're actually using X. Now, in my vimrc, I have kept the stuff that goes into XRC in its own section so that I can add those things to an XRC file if I need to copy this over, because it's really hard to disambiguate what goes in an XRC from what Vim allows, right? So let's go ahead and try some of these. Let's see if these work in an XRC for NVim. So actually number 3, let's call this NVim, NVI I mean. So if I do that, then let's try it. So let's edit .xrc. And we're going to do set, what was it, line number? Let's try set number. That should turn on line numbers when I edit. Yeah, it did not work. Set number, unknown, option number, set number. There it goes. Oh, that's sad. That's actually really sad. So that it looks like NVI is not reading XRC anymore. That's kind of sad. Let's see if Alpine does that. Run it RM. I want to see if Alpine does it. .xrc. Set number. And now vi foo. Set number. Nope, does not understand it. But it did see the XRC file. Watch. It did see the XRC file. It says that line numbering is not supported in Alpine. So that's interesting. All right, in fact, let's do that. Let's call this one Alpine, right? So you have Alpine NVI, and you have the user there, and then we have the Vim over here. And though this is, I mean, it depends on what you're looking at. Is this Arch Linux? Auto indent, auto write, numbering, ruler. Oh, we need show mode on. I know the show mode will work. Okay, so XRC is not working here. RC, let's do set show mode. Again, the minimal VI on Alpine is less than the VI in NVI, which is less than Vim, right? So that's why we're doing this. So, man, it doesn't have anything. Damn, it doesn't have anything. Set, tab, stop. Nope, it doesn't have that. Does it have ruler? Nope, it doesn't have anything. Well, that makes me not worry so much. Again, oh wait, it does auto indenting apparently. That's acceptable. Set, wait. I don't even think it's worth knowing the Alpine stuff that works, but what the hell? It's kind of fun. Set tab stop equals 5. Oh, wow. Apparently that worked. Tab. Oh, wow, that worked. Okay, so I'm going to put a little note here. I'm going to put a little note just for my own purposes. I've always wanted to do this, so this is I'm selfishly using this as a chance to see which of these are supported by Alpine, which is my favorite Linux distro by far. Mostly because it's so BSD-like and so small. Set ruler. Ruler is not a valid option. This is so interesting. Okay, maybe not to you, but it is to me. Set no number. No numbers. Set auto right. Damn, it doesn't have any of them. Set auto indent. Apparently auto indent is available though. Yeah. I'm actually going to put this, I'm going to put the Alpine stuff up here because I want to group it together. Yeah. Yeah. No compat is probably not a thing either. That's a Vimism. Yeah. Actually, what can we set? Okay, so that is it. This is all we get. This is all we get in Alpine. We get auto indent, expand tab. Okay. All right. Wait, where's my expand tab? Expand tab. Where's my expand tab? Oh, here we go. I didn't realize this was a vimrc thing. I had it in the wrong place. I thought this wasn't a vimrc thing. Yeah. Okay, so we get expand tab. If it doesn't expand tab, it does tabs. We're going to go through them all. Don't worry. No flash. What is flash? What is that about? I haven't ever used that one. What the hell is flash? Let's use it. Flash, Boolean, default, FL. We did not do a thing. What is it? What does it do? What does it mean? Flash. I don't know what flash is. I have no idea. If you ever try to set one of them, they won't get an error message, but the value is not used and cannot be printed. These options are in the UNIX VI, but not in Vim. What? I learned something today. I did not know that was a thing. Look at that. I think flashes don't flash on the screen. Oh, is flash a flashing keyboard thing? Flash. Set flash. Wait, now it's like, what's it doing? Oh my God. Did you see that? Oh my God. Flashbang. Why would I ever set that to true? I never, ever want that. Wait. We got to put it up here. We're going to say set no flash. Wait, is it no flash? Yeah. Alpine-ish only. I need to put these together. I mean, what? Wait. What's this? Oh, I'm gonna. This is interesting. I'm looking this stuff up because I want to. So there. So flash. So what else is it? So flash, auto print, beautify, hard tabs. These are all things that are not supported in Vim. I did not know that. I don't ever care. And by the way, you shouldn't need to either. 99% of the people who use Unix, they just grab somebody else's vimrc and call it a day. And if you want to grab mine, that's fine. But I want to explain it to you. I want to explain the different things that are in there. So anyway, let's go back to what actually is set. So auto indent, expand tab, which you always want, by the way. Expand tab you want because that turns your tabs into spaces, like 1 or 2 or 4. We're going to get there. Flash, no ignore case. This is in the search parameters, right? So this is when you're searching. Yeah, which is interesting that that's in there. I didn't realize. Yeah, I'm going to add to mine too. Wait, expand tab. Expand tab is in there. We're going to add it. We're going to say, I'm going to say, use, when searching, set, what is it? No ignore case. Use case when searching. No ignore case. What version of VI? 8.2. Yeah, nothing before 8.2 is worth using. Yeah. So I'm just checking this. I want to see if this is one of the supported ones though. Yeah. Let's see. Order ignore case in a pattern. If the ignore case option is on, normal letters are ignored. I actually don't like to ignore case. I actually like case. And the whole pattern is handled. Yeah. If you want to see a setting, by the way, I'm kind of doing this out of order, but if you want to see a setting, just do set ignore case. Or whatever. Actually, let's leave this off and see what it does when I open it up again. Yeah. Ignore. There's lots of options, CML. Ignore case. I actually think it's one. Oh, you want to do the Alpine? Well, I use the latest Alpine, so. Yeah, Alpine uses BusyBox VI, which is not, you know. Yeah, it doesn't even have a... Oh, yeah, it does. Version 1.36. But that would be the version of the BusyBox binary. That would not be the version of... Oh, my God. I got to turn Flash on. No Flash. Oh, my God. All right, so... We got Flash, ignore case, show match, and tab stop. Huh. Interesting. Okay, so... The comment, no flash since is not available. No, you don't. It specifically said it's available. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it said it supports it specifically. This says here, it says these options are, but they're not in Vim. If you try to set them, you won't get an error, but the value is not used and cannot be printed. Yeah, so what I'm trying to say here is that having Flash set, you know, and as long as you know it's for Alpine only, which I just found out, it's still not going to break anything. It's like, I don't know what you are. I don't support you. That's why it's red, probably. It's kind of cool. And what was the other one? Tab stop. So this is cool because I think that I have... Yeah, there it is. Tab stop. Okay, so tab stop. No flash. This goes with expand tab, actually. So let's do that. Number of tabs to number of spaces to replace a tab with when expand tab. All right, so what else we got? So that's cool. I mean, that's really great. You BusyBox 136? Yeah. Yeah, 136. This is BusyBox 136. Yeah. Okay. So this is the first time I've ever, in any boost, I've ever looked to see what was in Alpine. So I'm glad we took time to look at this. All right. So let's go through the whole VimRC initially. As I said, there's NVI I'm pretty sure NVI is going to. I have a feeling that the NVI project has departed from their bug for bug compatibility with the original VI, because I just ran it and it had support for filters, which I believe were never supported in the original VI. I don't have access to an AIX or Solaris box right now to check that, but I am almost sure that the filter command, the exclamation point, is not supported, like passing the current line to the shell and replacing it with its output, is not supported in traditional VI. If anybody has AIX access right now, I don't. If anybody has AIX access and can confirm that the filter command is supported in the original VI, I have traditionally been using NVI as the way to know if something is a VI thing versus a Vim-ism. I have nothing against Vim-isms. I just think that when given the choice to burn muscle memory, for specific commands between a Vim-ism and something that works in all versions of VI, it's just a no-brainer to use the thing that's going to work everywhere, in my opinion. With the reasonable degree of acceptance for variation there, because things are harder to type or whatever. And so Alpine, I know, doesn't use filter commands, but that's a very, very, very limited version of VI. That's just basically, it's not really VI. It's kind of a VI hack that was jammed into a 1.5 megabyte BusyBox multi-call binary, and therefore it doesn't have my favorite thing, my filter command. But NVI does have it. And the most powerful thing you can do in VI is the filter command. Hands down, without question, it is the most powerful thing. So if that is supported in the standard version of VI across the board, across all Unix operating systems, I'm going to be very happy about that. So, and there we go. There we got our line numbers. Do I need to make my case about why line numbers suck? I hate line numbers. Look at how much of your screen you're giving up to line numbers. Wasted, unnecessary, especially since you can, you don't need it. Anyway, so what I wanted to come over here and do was this. I just want to type set enter and press the key to continue. Let's see, to enter more X commands. Oh, wow. I guess it doesn't show you all your commands. That's interesting. Enter to see more X commands. I guess set is not, you can't list all your commands with set. That's very interesting. I didn't notice I'm being very meticulous about how I compare these three this year, and that's kind of interesting. There is no way to see all of your current settings. Oh no, there it is right there. It just listed them right here. Number and term. Those are the only things I have set. It doesn't tell me, it tells me all the stuff I've set explicitly versus, oh wow, that's cool. It actually did show me. Okay, so set, no number. And now set. Okay, so the only thing I have set is X term equals 256 color, which it probably pulled out of the environment, which you don't know about yet, but we're going to learn that. Interesting. Okay, so that doesn't even show me the different things that are available. All right, so back to vimrc. So here we are, designed for Vim 8 Plus, I put at the top here. And let's say a little word about vimrc files and what they're written in, what the languages and everything. Okay, so when VI came around, the only thing that was allowed to go in your XRC was things that could be typed from the colon prompt, like you just saw, right? And that largely meant just set commands. And so, in fact, the stuff in this little section here is, again, should be cut and pastable into anything that can see an XRC. So that should all work with NVim. And I did compare it. So I mean, I'm pretty sure those are the only ones. So, case, what search set? No, case. All right. So I put that stuff together so that I can cut and paste it out of there. And then Vim came along, and Vim added something that's in 2023 is highly, controversial, because VimScript, right? People either love VimScript or they hate it. VimScript added a full-blown programming language to the vimrc file. Right? It's no longer XRC, it's now vimrc, and vimrc is now a full-blown programming language. And that obviously enabled a ton of things to happen, which you probably already heard about. That it allowed the use of plugins, it allowed expansion, it allowed management of files in different places. Basically, it took VI and it turned it into an IDE, an individual development environment. Vim is every bit as powerful as Emacs, which up to that point, if you wanted to edit on a large code base and work from the terminal, you had one option, Emacs, right? And it thumbed its nose at the Unix philosophy of doing one thing well and said, I'm going to do all things to all people. And I'm going to basically be a big, huge Lisp interpreter that can do whatever I want to. And to this day, it's still that. So the people who did all the original GNU development and all that stuff, they were all Emacs users. In fact, most people from this, 1972 on, or 80, what is it, 85, something like that. Most, C developers, everybody, they developed in Emacs, and they continue to this day to develop in Emacs. Almost every, Linux kernel developer uses Emacs that I know. Everyone that I've run into, there's a couple that are using Vim, but some, I don't even know when, but sometime in there, Brahm, the guy who made Vim, came along and said, I really like VI. I wish it had all these extra things, these favorite things that I like from Emacs. I want to use Vim to do more development. I don't like this limited version. And so Vim, VI improved, was a real revolution in VI usage. And to this day, you can go out and watch Twitch streamers and YouTubers take it to the nth degree. I mean, I'm not going to talk about NeoVim because I hate it, but NeoVim is even a further step down that direction, right? It's like, I don't want to use VS Code. I want to use NeoVim, or I want to use Vim instead. People are moving to the point where they like the feel of Vim and they want Vim to be their individual development environment on large code bases doing all kinds of amazing things, as opposed to using Emacs, which is what originally was used, or some graphic IDE, right? And of course, Nano and all that stuff is kind of out. There's a couple more new kids on the block when it comes to like terminal editors out there that somebody will occasionally tell you about, and that's fine. So I had to give you that little summary of history in order for you to understand why this file is so complicated, because this file is literally a programming language, file that runs every time your Vim session starts. Now, it does it much more quickly than VS Code would initialize if you open that, but it does run. It runs every single time. Okay, so. And that means that there's pluses and minuses to that. Because it is a programming language, you can actually do conditional logic. Now, we're not going to learn VimScript here, but as you encounter VimScript, nobody really learns VimScript, honestly. Most of them are kind of like, they kind of fall into it and they're like, oh, I need a thing. And so they learn just enough VimScript to add that thing to their configuration that they want. And usually it's because they found it on the internet someplace else. If you want to go completely hardcore and learn VimScript, great. I believe the fundamental justification for creating NeoVim, even though I can't get any of the NeoVim creators to admit to this, is because they wanted to not use VimScript. They wanted to write all of their configuration in Lua because they played Roblox as a kid and they love Lua and everything should be in Lua. Lua is a great language. It is. It's a really great language. But I don't want to write my vimrc file on that. And let me just give you one reason why. Portability. You cannot take a NeoVim Lua file, NeoVimRC or whatever the hell they call it, and you can't put that on another system at work and use it. In fact, you can't use NeoVim at work, period. There's a few isolated people who are going to chime in right about now. I can almost cue them every time. They're going to say, I can use NeoVim at work and I love it. I say, yeah, but did they let you put that on the jump boxes and all the main servers? Oh, no. Have you dared to ask your Unix admins to put that on there? No, because they probably laugh you out of the room. Because Vim 8 point whatever is already on those machines. So I'm not gonna make fun of NeoVim anymore. I'm just gonna put the challenge out to everybody who uses NeoVim. Why? Why are you using it? Be honest. So far, not a single person has ever given me a sufficient reason to not use the default editor on all of Linux. And it certainly ain't because I can write my configuration file in Lua. I just told you why, right? So yes, I hate VimScript too. We all hate it. Okay, we all agree to hate it. It's like pseudo configuration language and actual shell language at the same time, all built together. It sucks. It's horrible. Get the book on it if you want to read it, or don't. Nobody cares. But I tell you what, if you write something in VimScript, it's going to be compatible with everything. And let's start by one of the advantages of using VimScript right away. So here we go. One of the very first things you'll hit is this. This is a very weird thing, but there's many, many versions of Vim out there. So if you're working on Raspberry Pi, for example, you get Vim Tiny by default. You don't get Vim. And the point of this vimrc as we go through it is to create the ultra portable, the most portable vimrc file you can possibly have. And the purpose for that is so that if I am on a jump box at work and I want that system, I have to edit files on that system for some reason, I want to be able to just SCP over my single file, my vimrc file, and have it just work. Now, they're not going to let me pull down plugins and all kinds of stuff, which is another reason not to use a lot of plugins, and we're going to get to that point. In fact, you shouldn't use any plugins except for optional syntax highlighting, and those should be conditional only so that your vimrc file doesn't blow the fuck up when you're on a jump host that doesn't have access to the internet. Okay, we're going to get there. But one of the ways to get around one of the ways to get around this is because Vim Tiny lacks eval. So, and not only does Vim Tiny lack eval, but some of the other like Vim isms don't have it. First of all, this will not work if you're trying to change this name to XRC. Like if you're trying to use this vimrc with NVim, it won't work, right? Because first of all, NVI doesn't even look for vimrc; it looks for .xrc. So you're safe there, right? So that's why I put this whole section here. So if I did copy and paste it over, it turns out I only have NVI over there. I can delete the rest of it, and I can just keep that one section, and it'll work, right? My expand tab, the very few things that I can change, and frankly, most of the time I don't need to change those because I'm only going to spend a little bit of time over there editing the thing, right? Because I'm being forced to do it. And if I want to do any bigger editing session than that, I'd pull it down onto another file and I'd put it in Git and Git pull it, that kind of thing. So this little trick, if has eval, is kind of cool. So this checks to see if the eval command is there, and if it's not, it does that. Now let me show you something. So as we go through this, okay. We're going to be making extensive use of the Shift K, so capital K command. Anytime you're on any element of syntax and you want to look up the documentation for that thing in any language in Vim, you hover over it and you do Shift K and it will jump to the documentation for that thing. And then when you don't want that, you can just ZZ to close it, or :Q, exclamation point, whatever you want to do, however you want to close that window. Now that is a Vim pane that comes up. That's one of the few cases where using panes in Vim makes sense. And you can get help on any topic by doing that. Again, the other thing that we learned 2 weeks ago is the star. And what does the star do? So the star automatically searches the entire file for that word. So if I do star on H and then I just do N, it'll go to all the H's, right? So we'll go 1G to go to the top. So the two main things for looking through files are if they have syntax, if it's a language with actual syntax that's supported by Vim, is Shift K. That'll tell you what it does. Like, what does that thing do? Why am I showing you this? Because when you copy my file, and by the way, how would you copy the file, right? If you want to use my file, and you can do it one at a time, you can write the lines in there. We're going to do that, or you can copy the whole thing. I'm going to show you how to copy the whole file really quickly right now. So let's say, well, let's go over here. So let's go on this user, right? Let's pretend that you don't care about all of the stuff that I put in and you trust me to use my stuff, right? Well, if you do ls-al, you see that there is no vimrc file here, right? So let me show you how to use a command that we haven't learned from the command line. It's called curl. And you can use curl-slo. All right, so slow if you want to. If you want to, you can do sslo And if you really want to, you go LFO, and you can look up what all those things do if you want to. I do not use autocomplete. I hate it. It has no purpose whatsoever. People use autocomplete annoy me. And the reason I don't use autocomplete, we'll get into it, but I'm going to answer it right now because somebody asked. The reason I don't use autocomplete is it never gives me enough information, right? I am faster by looking up the documentation for a thing that works in any language than I am with autocomplete. Autocomplete, if I type autocomplete, unless I have somebody's used ridiculously long identifiers, which you can do, I don't use it. It just makes no sense to me. It makes absolutely zero sense. Now, I could be convinced to use autocomplete because I'm a big fan of autocompletion on the command line, but I'm not a fan of it inside of my editor, and I am damn well am not a fan of this bullshit that pops in your screen all the time. It's like flashing all the time, showing you every possible combination. People who code like that, they suck. I watch them. They are so distracted by all the shit that's like coming up on the screen, and they're so fast and twitchy that they're never thinking about what they're doing. It's absolutely crazy watching these people. If that's you, fine. That's you. I'm not going to judge you other than to say what I've said. But I am not that guy. I am meticulous, and it takes me a long time to write something. But when I write something, I usually don't to get rid of it. I do, but I usually don't take it out in that second. People who like all that flashy shit all the time tend to write a bunch of things that don't matter, and then they redo it all later, and they end up wasting a lot of time, even though they look like they were really efficient and fast. Most code happens. You know what my code the very best? My very best code is on paper. It's like when I'm going for a walk and I come up with the algorithm and I decipher the algorithm and create identifiers that can be written with pencil, and there are 85 fucking characters long. You think I'm kidding? Look in the kubectl code base. It has that. Why? Because of shitty autocompletion has allowed people to use these big ass names that make no sense at all and just hit tab and get the whole fucking name. Autocompletion has ruined clean coding. And I hate it. I won't use it. If you use it, fine. Just don't tell me about it because I'm going to judge you. Anyway, somebody just came in the very best moments. I'm a lot like you. Here, roast someone. Tell them not to judge them. Number one, roast them. Then tell them that you're not judging them. Then tell them, screw it. Look, y'all, I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't love you. If roasting or ranting or not, I wouldn't even be doing this and wasting my own fucking time doing this. I'm not supposed to swear. It's just a boost. Well, I already screwed that up. Yeah, I like autocomplete because it can avoid typo mistakes. No. I still don't buy it. I make typo mistakes all the time, but yeah, I could, as I said, I could be convinced to get into autocomplete if it didn't get in the way of everything else. Anyway, yeah, I code on paper. Next time, code interviews, not in the forest. Twitchy, flashy editor with garbage code. Sounds like a stereotypical VS Code TypeScript. I didn't say that. I did not say that. You said that. Okay, so here we go. So yeah, coding is mental. It's not how fast you can type on your fancy ass non-ergonomic keyboard that you think is ergonomic. Look, if that's, I'm pissing everybody off here, so I got to stop talking. All right, so back to what we were doing. Maybe I need to take a break. Should I take a break and walk away? Step away from the keyboard, Rob. Anyway, so this is, let me show you how to get the, if you want to look up all the documentation for that, you know how to do that. We already talked about it, right? But the curl slow, if you don't want to remember the F in there, you can just do curl slow. And curl slow will actually download the file that you point to with its, actually, I'm going to put this in this here too. It will download the file that you want to, right? I'm going to put a thing here. It's like, how do I download file from the internet, from the command line? There is wget. We'll cover that later, but we're going to cover curl right now. So curl slow. The S's, you can take the S's off if you want. The S's are just to silence the output, which can be annoying. The capital O, the L says follow redirects, which is almost always the case with HTTPS. And the O, the capital O says keep the same name as the final part of the URL, right? If you wanted to rename it, you could, but I always just use that. You can just do curl low, and I don't use wget. First of all, libcurl is the standard for everything in every browser. Why would you use it? The only reason I use wget is if I want to pull down more than one thing. Wget is shit compared to curl. Wget can't do REST API queries. Just don't learn it. There, I said my piece. Don't even bother learning wget. Learn curl. I'm telling you, learn curl. Curl will benefit you more long term. You can do actual HTTP requests and queries in multiple target protocols, and it's the standard for cloud native, period. You'll never see a cloud native engineer using wget because you can't check JSON REST queries with it. Just learn curl. Throw wget in the trash where it belongs. Okay, so unless you're trying to crawl an entire site, for which case wget's really good, but very rarely is that what people want. So, all right, so let's go get what we want here. I'm going to go into github.com, rdvxrob, and what I'm about to do is the standard thing that everybody does. You go out, it's become a rite of passage to have a .files repo on GitHub, right? And you go look around. In fact, you can go do a search for .files. Check it. If you do this, you can do .files, right? You can do .files, and you will find tons of people have .files. In fact, you could like sit here and drink coffee and look at all their .files. Oh, here's a Z shell user because they don't know what the hell they're doing. And why would you ever use Z shell? I don't understand. And people do. It sucks. So okay, so Z shell is like fucking dangerous. I would never use it anyway. But you can go through and you can see their own stuff and their vimrc files, and you can look for them. So why do you care about this, right? vimrc symlink, whatever that is. I just some random person. I don't even know who this person is. File type, indent, plugin on, syntax on. Where's their vimrc? They must be using some kind of manager, which I don't think you should do. I think you should. There's like major like holy wars about how you should manage your .files. But anybody who puts dates in their URLs is not somebody that I would care to hear from. So let's go back to that kind of thing. Okay, forget this. Jess Frazzle. Jess Frazzle. She's one of the hottest coders out there. She works for Rust Oxide Computing right now. She's actually got a lot of really great stuff in her bash RC files. I think, yeah, so she's got her aliases in here. What am I showing you? I'm showing you how to steal good stuff from people's files, right? You can get ideas on theirs. Her tmxconf does not have a screen in it, but I'm trying to be, fair here and show you what you can put in here and what you can go get. She also does not have a vimrc. She uses IRSSI, of course. Yeah, because she can't be bothered with like modern IRC applications. Every once in a while, you'll meet a young person who wants to be really, 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 really retro for no reason. And that's Jess for sure. She's a brilliant, talented artist when it comes to coding and everything she does. She's done many presentations on containerization. She containerized her entire Linux. Her Linux is a big container boot engine. That's it. She boots up straight into like a container engine and then just runs nothing but containers. I don't see. She's got i3. She doesn't have a vimrc at all. Huh. That's interesting. Anyway, so let's go to mine. I'm just going to run right to mine, but I wanted to show you that you don't have to just look at mine. You can put whatever you want in yours. That's the point. You can tell me that I'm full of crap, and you can go use another one. So here we go, rdvx rob/dot, and now we're going to go find my vimrc. Mine happens to be inside of Vim, and I use a process of symlinking. We're going to go through how to customize your files and all of that when we do the bash RC sort of thing, right? But as you can see, here it talks about your Vim, why not use Vim 8 plugins, and then I have vimrc right here, right? Okay, so here is the vimrc that we're looking at. This is one I'm obviously going to have to update because I just made a bunch of changes. But how would you get this, right? How would you get this? So you'd click on raw over here, and that'll give you the URL that you want. You copy the URL, WeChat, I'm a big WeChat fan personally. And so you can still stuff, but then you can paste there, right? And what is this going to do? Okay, so, it did something, and I left the SS off so that you can see the download stuff. Usually I put SS on there to keep that from outputting, because especially if you're scripting it, you don't want that, right? Obviously, it goes without saying that anytime you download something from the internet, you should look through it to see what it is, right? If you download a binary from the internet and run it on your system without checking it out, without checksumming it, you're going to be sad. So don't do that. So now watch. So now I have a new vimrc, right? Now when I try to edit that file, oh my gosh, look at this. Look at that. Look at how pretty that is, right? Let's do a Go file, shall we? So foo.go. I could do package main, func main. I got all my highlighting, println, hello, right? And then I go run foo.go. Yay, whoopsie. Do I have Go on here? Oh, that's right. I installed Go locally. I'm so glad I did that. I'm really glad I did that. Anyway. By the way, if you want to like install stuff from the command line too, you can use that thing that we just did to actually install code. This is a bonus. This is bonus. We made a Go localized installer last week. And we're going to learn how to write scripts and code and everything, but I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. I don't care. I'm going to do it anyway. So it's under install in my dot files. And it's under Ubuntu. It's actually technically not Ubuntu. It's Linux. And I have this program called Install Go. And you can read through the shell code, which we're going to learn how to code. You're going to know every single line of this does by the time we get done. And you can click on raw. And you can actually run this to install Go into your account if you want to. And that will install the latest Go into your local user account. That's why I don't have Go over here. So remember that curl command we just did? Same thing. All right. So we can download that file. All right. And now we can look at the file. It's a shell code file. See how pretty my vimrc is now? And now we can run it. So then I do / actually, let's schmod it. Install Go. And then we're going to do this when we do scripting. So go ahead and install it. So you see what it's doing there? It's actually using curl to download and install Go. And now exec bash-l to re-execute a bash script. And now I should be able to do go run foo.go. And it does not find my Go program. You know why? Because I don't have a path. It even says so. Add that to your path. I'm getting ahead of myself, but let's do that. So let's actually do that. Bash rc. Where's my path? Do I have a path set in here? Export path equals home dot local dot bin / go dot local go. What did it say? Add to your path. Option use go bin. Local bin. What is it? Use a local go. Yeah. Local go bin. Column path. There's a better way to do that, but we're going to do this when we do bash rc, which is in 2 weeks, I think. Next week we're going to do tmux. I don't know if we should do bash or tmux first. I think we should do how to use tmux, and then we should do bash, because you can customize tmux with bash, and then we should do bash rc. What do you think? Sub to nvim. Yeah, good luck with that. -l go version. Yay, there we go. So go run foo.go. What did I? Oh, right. Hello. I'm fighting against a bunch of mini cubes here. So that's all I was saying, is that you can So what was the goal of that? The goal was to show you that you can pull down anybody's vimrc file at will and just use it. But you need to understand what's in there. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go, it just uses Vim and NeoVim. Nice. Again, I don't care if you use NeoVim. It's up to you. You make your own decisions. But I think it's a waste because I want to be useful on lots of things. It's like a regular fighting point in this chat, though. I don't know what that is. Look, last time I'm gonna say it. Learn VI and learn Vim before you learn NeoVim. Okay, that's all I'm suggesting. Because if you learn NeoVim and then you end up learning all this Lua configuration and all this other stuff, and then you go to work on a system that's using Vim, you're not going to know how to do anything. You're going to look like a noob because you didn't learn it. I am not against you learning NeoVim. I'm not going to do it because it doesn't bring any value to the table at all for me. And I can't get any. The point being is that Vim does, right? Vim does bring you value to the table for everyone. So everybody should learn Vim, period. And then if you do, I mean, even people that are going to be doing Emacs or VS Code should learn Vim because they're going to be on a container system at some point. They're going to need to use VI or Vim. They may not like it, but it's going to happen, right? And they're going to say, well, I can just copy the file over. Sure, but I mean, it would be so much more convenient if you just took like 30 minutes to learn Vim so that you could actually edit that file in place on a system that only has Vim, that you don't have the time to install something, right? So I've said that many times. I just keep having to repeat it. You know, that's my justification. I have considered actually there's video evidence of me saying 2023 may be the year that I use NeoVim. I would always use the vimrc compatibility, which it has. But if NeoVim brings something to me that gives me value, which currently it doesn't, but if it did, I would be happy to use it. Okay, so anyway. So you can always download a vimrc file. So let's go ahead and dissect that vimrc file, and let's add those sections as we go, right? So I'm going to go through this. This is my own vimrc file. And in order for the sake of time, we're just going to go through it, and I'm going to show you the help for each thing. I'm going to comment on it, and then we're going to just go on. And you can decide whether you want to add it to your vimrc or not, okay? So if somebody wants to put a marker, here's the place to put a marker, because we're going to go through every setting. I'm going to briefly summarize what I remember of the setting and why I have it. And then you can decide whether you want it in yours or not. Okay. But I don't want to spend a lot of time fighting over the settings. I spent way more time fighting over the other stuff already. All right. So again, if it has eval, then that means it's a full version of Vim. Good idea to put anything like that would be in Vim Tiny. There's also another way to check whether you are Vim 7 or earlier. And this actually burned me specifically while I was on a jump host that had Vim 7 on it, and they didn't have any intention of upgrading to 8. And my vimrc was throwing errors every time I loaded up. So you're going to see these conditional blocks on occasion inside of my vimrc, and the reason for this is so that you can be sure it's going to work on as the oldest version of Vim possible, where you can. I mean, going back to 7, it's not unlikely that you're going to run into having to run a vimrc on a Vim 7 at some point, and it's very likely that you're going to be wanting to use your vimrc on something that has Vim Tiny only installed, and you're not going to be able to install the full version of Vim. Most of the time, though, you'll have access to upgrade to Vim. So you'd make the decision. No compat. Okay, so what does compatibility do? This option has the effect of making Vim either more VI compatible or make Vim behave in a more useful way. So if you have a vimrc file, if you're already using a .vimrc file, you've already pretty much signed off that you want Vimisms. So there's really no reason to have compatibility mode. Why would you have a .vimrc that's in compatibility mode? That's like torturing yourself. Instead, NVI uses .xrc, right? So just by the nature of that you're using .vimrc, set no compat because you want to use Vim. That's the whole point, right? So automatically indent new lines. So auto indent or AI. These short versions, by the way, they are worth learning because you can type them really quickly from the command line. Anything that says set in here can be set just by typing :set, and you can tab to get all the commands if you don't know it. Sometimes that's useful. So we're going to do auto indent, right? If you just type it without anything else, it'll usually tell you the value. But you can set, and the Booleans, you just put no in front of it, right? So no auto indent would then keep you from auto indenting. That comes into play when you're doing like coding, right? Or you have paragraphs and you want it to wrap around, like yeah. So I'm trying to see a version of this. So if I'm like writing a Zettelkasten and I say I have a bullet point, blah, 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 and I'm trying to think of a way that auto indent would work. Now I have Pandoc set to not do any wrapping. See how that did that? So when I formatted it, it auto indented this second line over here. This is not a good example because my markdown, I have very specific opinions on that. So, but that's what that does. Automatically write free files or changing multiple files open. Auto write. So this is cool. Writes the contents of the file has been modified on each next, rewind, last, first, previous, and stop. Pretty cool, huh? On each, next, rewind, last, first, previous, stop, suspend. I love this because this automatically saves my file. Yep. Now, I still do :W all the time because I'm so paranoid, right? But I do this. I do this a lot. So, yeah. Don't use this, by the way. That's reserved in tmux. You don't want to use anything that conflicts with tmux. What else? Nothing else to say about that one. Auto write. Now you know what that is. Deactivate the line numbers. I've already told you about this. If I wanted to turn this on, I just do set new. I don't like giving up screen real estate to line numbers. The only time I ever activate line numbers is when I'm pair programming and somebody's watching my screen, so they can tell me what line number it's on. This is literally the only time. The reason I don't like it is I don't like that if you're editing a large file, you can lose as many as 6 spaces to the left margin, particularly for streamers. And so I do no new. And how do you know which line you're on, Mr. Rob? My line number is down here anytime I want it. And occasionally you'll see me look down here for a line number when I need a line number. That's all I need. Turn on the ruler. Obviously you want the ruler on. That's a no-brainer. The ruler is this thing at the bottom. There's not to be confused with the status line. In Vim, the status line and the ruler are two different things. And the ruler, as you can see, is usually higher than the status line, or vice versa. I can't remember which one. So this here is the ruler, right? And mine's not at the very bottom, and that's a tmux issue with my screen aspect ratio. It's like lost a line there somehow. So anyway, show command on insert. So if an insert replaces a visual, we'll put a message on the last line. Use the M flag and highlight to set the message, blah. This option is set the VI default value when compatible is set. So this shows me the mode. Without this, it doesn't say insert. See down here it says insert? It doesn't do that without that. And that's really annoying. It's really annoying because you don't know what mode you're in. You're like, am I in insert mode? I can't believe that they don't leave this on by default. But they don't. They don't do that. Here, watch, I'll show you. Set no show mode. Now I'm in insert mode, but you can't tell. Why would you ever turn that off? Look, watch. I'm inserting and it doesn't even change. Damn, that would drive me nuts. Nuts. Oh, set show mode, please. Give me that back. Now watch. There we go. Yes. And that's funny because that's been a thing since the first version of VI, I remember. Ubuntu monofont, yep. Disable the visual bell. I mean, the visual bell is the thing that blinds you. So this is Flash in versions that support it. So, yeah, you can set up all those fun things if you want to. I'm not doing any of those things. Map leader. So this is a complicated one to describe. Yeah, I'm trying to... So how do I say this? Vim adds yet another, like a third or fourth mode for doing things, for saying that, hey, here comes a whole bunch of keystrokes to do a special thing. And that's what the map leader is. So to define a mapping which uses a map leader, the special string leader can be used. It replaces the string of map leader. So I use comma because it's easier to type. There's a couple cases where I use it. So let me test one here. So if I'm trying to think of one, main.go. So if I'm doing main.go, for example, so that command, so this is why you don't need plugins, by the way. I mean, yet another reason you don't need plugins, because you got leaders, right? So I have a leader command that automatically inserts the print statement. It's leader M, right? And when I type that, it automatically runs the macro that installs, it writes all that stuff in there. So I use comma for my leader because it's super easy for my fingers to get to. I think it's some crazy convoluted thing by default. I don't remember what it is by default. Yeah. Use integrated PC speaker reach. So yeah. So that's what my leader is. I have another one too. I can't remember right now. Is it N? Yeah. So there's something that I hate to type and go all the time, right? And you can actually make the mappings that begin with leader depending on the language. So if error equals nil, I mean, this is a really annoying thing to type. So, and that's like, my fingers can type that. They type it all the time, and I can type it. So that's why I have leader. I suggest something that this is super important that you choose wisely on this and you really think about it, because that keystroke is going to be burned into your memory forever. It's going to be burned into your finger memory. So just be careful on that choice. I like comma because it's not taken for anything else. It's really easy to type. Soft tab stops. A number of spaces that a tab counts for while performing editing operations like insert. So this is almost always the same as your expand tab. So tab stop is just how many spaces should every tab equate to. I can't remember which one, but one of them actually, if it will keep a tab. No, if you don't have expand tab set, it will actually space over that many spots to display a tab. And then if you have expand tab set, which this is my old vimrc. I actually moved it around in the other one. This is the original. So once you set expand tab, it'll actually replace it with that. And soft tab stop is, as far as I can tell, it's just an extension of that same stuff. So you can read that there. Shift width, this is a big one. I actually don't use shift anymore. I used to use it a lot. Shift width is, we didn't even do this in the Vim learning, but if you type 2 greater than signs, it moves stuff over, right? But I don't use this for anything because it only happens, it only does one. People use visual mode for this, like 2. If you do 2, it moves 2 things over. You can't, as far as I remember, you can't combine it with other commands. But whenever I need to move something over, I have a filter for that. So you might not have a filter for that, but I have a filter, and I just can move the whole thing over. So that's how I do that. You don't have a filter set here, but that's how I do that. I don't use that very much, but that is what the shift width is. Yeah, can you do 5G? Yeah, I think you can do 5G. Yeah, if you wanted to do like everything. So if you're on this line number, so what, we're on line number 10. So we could do this. We could say, and this is line 27. So we could do this. We could say greater than 27G. Wait, I did it wrong. I don't do this all the time, so that's why I don't use it. I just use my filter command, because when I have a single filter command that will take whatever I type in there, and when I want to insert spaces, I can precisely indicate the number of spaces. And when I want it to be an actual comment with a thing, I always do that, and I use that command for everything. Whenever I want to put anything in front of a line, I use that, because I can, if I want it to be 1 dot, I can do that, and I have this single filter command that works for everything. And I've come to really depend on that. I really love that a lot. I never really got into this But then of course the filter command has to be on my system if I'm going to do that. So let me try it one more time. So down here is 27, and if I did this 27G, yeah, it doesn't work. It didn't work. That didn't work. It's just 27G. Oh, okay. Well, I can see using that, but as I said, I like the precision of using CMT. So let me show you what I mean by that. So if I wanted to, I have an uncomment filter. I have a UCMT, which will take off the first thing there. And then if I want to add stuff on, I like mine better, like so much better. I just love filters. Unix filters are the way to go, but that's not everybody. So if I do that, you know, so then I say like bang, CMT, UCMT, and then I do CMT, and I can say I can put that much space in there. You know how hard that would be if I did that with the greater than thing. I'd have to like know the exact number to do and everything. This way I can just send it to my filter and say, I want blah, 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 zombies, and it just does the whole thing. Yeah, and everything I just did is like so much faster than all I'm just going to say is I am a huge fan of filter. Because filter allows you extreme power. If I wanted to, I could just use sed, and I wouldn't even have to. Let's try it with sed. Let's do a sed instead. Let's do sed. Sed. I mean, sed doesn't make any sense because you can do this already from the command line, right? So you could just say, I want to change those. I want to change, you know, the first character to foo, and then that will do it for the whole thing. I just like filters. I like filters. Filters are the way to go on all this stuff. But I accept that a lot of people don't like filters. So, but the flexibility of filters, it makes visual mode. I watch people using visual mode and I just snicker because I can't believe what a waste of fucking time it is. The flexibility of filters blows away anything you can do with visual or some particular built-in. Anyway, so that's my take on it. Do whatever you want. So shift width, smart indent. I don't give a shit about it, but there it is. Smart tab. I do like this. Tab in front of a line, insert blanks according to shift width. When off a tab, always inserts blanks according to tab stop. Some of these settings, I don't even know what they do because I'm so used to them. So that's one of those cases. Oh, here's our first case of checking for version 8 or not, right? So this is the code that I added that only applies to version 8 and above of Vim, right? Print the version of the editor if the compiler is above date, okay? So I really, really, really love this. This says, hey, all the stuff that's in this block, only do this if it's Vim 8 or above. How are you getting to the filters? Bang, bang. Yeah. Watch week 8, people. Watch week 8. Week 8, we go extensively into filters, and we're going to hit filters again when we start bash scripting. It's also the reason that I spent so much time on how to edit files through pipe commands, through sed and through whatever edit, everything. Because if you know how to edit a file in line from the command line, you can do it as a part of a very powerful single command line. You can do it as part of the shell script, or you can use it as a filter, and you get all of that for free because you learned it right. There. So I said that. Stop Vim from silently messing with the files it shouldn't. Fixed end of line when writing a file to this option. EOL at the end of the file will be restored if missing. Turn this option off if you want to preserve situation original file. I don't even know. I just know it doesn't screw my... Everything that's in here, almost everything that's in here is in here because I got burned. Okay. Oh, this is a great one. This is a fun one. Go on YouTube and watch week 8 or go to skillstack.io. So we're going to pause for station identification and a break. All right. We're back after a quick break. And we've actually been having fun talking about tabs versus spaces, which, believe it or not, is going to apply to the next thing. So list chars. In order to understand list chars, you need to understand something that we didn't cover in the in the tutorial, which actually makes me realize I need to add it. So let me just make a little note to add this to the tutorial that I'm building. Issue. Just give me 1 second. Issue. Add set list to the tutorial, and yeah, so that's going to be a thing. Adds set paste. Those need to be in there. Anyway, so and list jars. So you really don't care. Shift K is what I'm giving. Yeah, any language in Vim uses Shift K, and that's why I don't use tab completion or any other shit like that, because that documentation has been built in everything in Vim since the beginning of Vim, and people don't know about it. They won't use it. If you're using some funky neo-Vim-ism that doesn't work with Vim just to get the same thing that it's using with Shift K, reconsider your decision. So what does this do? Well, in order for you to understand list jars, you need to understand, I need to get on a system that doesn't have it on, right? Okay. So here's a system that's unconfigured, right? And I got this, blah, blah, blah. This is particularly important if you're a Python programmer. Anybody ever try to run a Python program that's got both tabs and spaces in it? Won't work. And the shellcode can have tabs and spaces as well. And we started talking about that earlier during the break, right? So, and you know, we're doing all these spaces here. So you open up this file and you're like, damn, are those tabs or spaces? I don't know, right? So you would do :set list, and set list shows you this by default. Not very useful, is it? In fact, one of the only reasons I would ever use VI, this works in the oldest versions of VI as well. The only reason I would ever do this is if for some reason I had ported over a Windows file into a Linux machine and it had control M's. It had those line carriage returns at the end of it. And so you'd see, oh, there's carriage returns in there. That's why it's not working, right? So if you ever want to see what's actually in a text file, and strangely enough, VI, even by default, VI can... strangely, it can actually open binary files, which is ridiculously cool. You can always check to see the type of binary up there. It's always better to use the file command if you're looking for that kind of thing, if you want to see what kind of file it is, if you're a hacker or something. But it's not, you know, it's not horrible. I mean, you wouldn't use this to look up the strings in there. You would use strings for that, and that will show you all the strings if you're looking for some idiot who coded passwords into their binary, which is really stupid. Anyway, but it is pretty amazing that you can open a binary file in VI and it just works. So, and that's kind of long, but if it's a text file, right? If it's a text file, then you got kind of different problems here. And so here's what it looks like with NVI set list. You'll see it's the same thing, right? So the only thing you get with set list is you can see the line returns as dollar signs, which are very hard to distinguish from actual dollar signs, and you get carriage returns and shit like that, right? So I'm trying to make one for you. So if I were to do like echo, I think we have to do printf. We can do echo n, but printf does it by default. So if I do a carriage return, some blah, blah, and pipe that into foo. Append it to the end of foo. I want to show you. So this file, see now by default it does show you this a little bit. Now I'm using Vim. Whoopsie. That's what I wanted to show you. I've got some cool things set up. But see, look at that. You're like, what the hell is that? What is that? Oh, that is set list. Sometimes I won't even show it to you, right? So what list characters does, or set list does, is and you can kind of look that up, of course, if you it actually strings to use in the list mode for the list command. It is a separate I didn't realize it was just list. You can do it just list. I used to usually use set list works in everything. List apparently is a Vimism. It is a comma separate list ending. So what you can do is you can say, I want these characters to be my own characters. Yeah, guys who grew up closer to bare metal. So what I like about this is that you can actually do this and you can get crazy with it, right? And you can do this. In fact, let's let's copy this over and execute this in NVim. I'm just curious to see if NVim can even take it. I don't think it can, but we're about to find out. So we're going to paste this over here. Oh, it doesn't work. Set all gives the option. Okay, so NVI doesn't support it, but Vim does, thankfully, right? So you could do that. Now, something else that's annoying is that it doesn't show you whether it's a space or a tab. So let's do set no ET. Now let's do a tab here. All right, there you go. There's your tab. Okay. So there's your tab. So there it is. We got a tab. There's a control I, and we have control M for the carriage return. You know, but if you see some control I's in there, you know, you're like, oh, okay. But in the old days, that is all we got. That was all we got. And, you know, it was better than nothing, but, you know, and spaces were spaces. But these days, watch me turn it on this machine. This is like going to be cool. Set list. So now I get, because I have list character set, I get these really super ultra pretty stars. And then I get, I get tabs here. I'll show you. So if I what is it? Was it blur? What are we doing here? Foo? Oh, damn. Oh, damn. I always do that. Foo temp. All right. So then let's open up temp NVI file. Let's open up with Vim. In my case, VI is Vim. Now look, you see that? By default, I highlight any trailing spaces. This is a different thing. This is one of the biggest annoyances of all, and I absolutely love. I customize that myself. I'll show you how to do that. But this will if it's a trailing space, it will automatically show you that you have trailing spaces, which can really ruin your day in some cases. But as you can see, the control M is seen here, but the tab is completely invisible, right? And if I was editing Python, I wouldn't do it. So I would do :list. Oh, look, it didn't work. :set list. All right. So when I do set list mode, you see that I have 3 spaces here, and they're red because they're at the end of the line. You see that I have 3 spaces here. I have a space here, and I customized the appearance of a tab character. That was my own selection for the tab character. So that was my choice. So I'm trying to show you again, vimrc. So that's where list characters comes from. So this says for space, and I actually tried to use emotes here and did not have much success. I had to put it within 8 because there's been pretty radical differences between what you can put in list characters over the last versions from 7 up to 8.2. So this works pretty consistently for all of them. I make my spaces into stars. I make trailing spaces into stars. I make non-breakable spaces into stars. I make extends, which I don't remember how that shows up. But that's what that is. I know what that is. If it goes off the screen, if you have no wrap on, if you have no wrap turned off and a line goes off of the screen completely, it'll truncate that line and put that at the end, so you know that it goes off onto the end. And then proceed. It's a very Vim specific thing to do. Proceeds, same thing, same extension kind of idea. And then tab. That's the really big one, right? So this one says, I want to use this character and this character for tab, and so that's what's up. So then when I do that, you know, you get your tab there. I trim them on save instead of painting them red, because I don't necessarily want to always get rid of them. There's some cases where I want trailing spaces, such as when in Pandoc I want a hard break. I would never delete anything automatically, which I know that can be, you know, done based on the operating system and stuff like that, and based on language. So I am not a fan of destroying a file unless, I mean, I am okay with like Vimgo auto-linting and formatting because it's very specific, or shell, even FMT doing that. I'm not okay with some of the other languages. So I guess I'm okay with it. I just want it to be language specific, right? in the case of Python, a lot of times this comes into play when you're opening stuff that is somebody else's. You're like checking for, like we found this week. We found a bunch of files that had tabs and spaces for indentation in shellcode, like officially released shellcode that's in the Linux standard distributions. And we're like, why the hell didn't they standardize on one or the other, right? There's no reason for that. So probably because they didn't see it. And I can't tell you how many times I've caught trailing spaces on shit that somebody else coded and just was able to go in there and clean it up. Trailing spaces don't ruin most people's day in 2023, but in 1989 to 1997, having a trailing space on a configuration file was the difference between it working and not working silently. And you would spend forever trying to find stuff. By the way, if you want to really screw up your buddies, go find like a question mark or a dollar sign. Go get one of the Unicode equivalents for a dollar sign that appears as a dollar sign on the screen and replace the dollar signs in the code with the Unicode character. If you want to troll the hell out of your friend, because they won't be able to see the difference. And it'll say they're having an error on that line and it will be a dollar sign. And like, why the hell is this not working? Unless they delete that dollar sign or something. And there's a million ones you can do. You can do dollar signs, you can do ampersands. There's like Unicode equivalents of them that manifest exactly the same way on the screen. It's so mean. It's so mean to do that to somebody. Don't you dare. This is why you version control your files. Hell yeah. And then you just snap it back. Absolutely. Do it in a interpreter language. Yeah, I know. Yeah, in a compile language, it wouldn't work as well. But anyway, so we spent all that time on list characters. So we're going to go faster through stuff. Fold method. I fucking hate folding. People swear by this. Folding is when something seems like it's a block. And so what it does is it tries to do what you would expect from a graphic. People say, well, it's a big, long bitch. Anything that would benefit from folding should be rewritten. Honestly, if you have such a big function that you lose your place in it or something, I hate folding. Yeah. So I should probably flag the stream. Yeah. I really hate it. Yeah. So I hate folding. If I'm going to do folding, I'll do it manually, but I don't want anything to... Sometimes Vim will actually let you put stuff in comments. And so you get people polluting their source code with Vimisms to do this, right? And I really hate that. By the way, there are a few things that Vim will read comments in different languages that will set the tab spacing and everything for that particular file. I'm not a fan of that. I don't like forcing everybody to use whatever my stylistic guidelines are for a file. In fact, I saw this recently when I was doing some code. I was doing what were we working on? We were working on the Cobra CLI stuff in my Klogin. And if you go into Klogin inside of the CMD, where was it? I'm trying to remember where I put that. I think it's a completion code. Oh, no. It's the Go Releaser. The Go Releaser file, right? So if you ever see this stuff down here, you see all those settings that we have? You can actually, I've never done this. I never do this, but you can actually tell Vim that this is what you want for this file for everybody. And then when they open the file, they have to use this. It doesn't get overwritten as far as I know. So I would never do that. See, they're called mode lines. I hate that. I think that's horrible to do. I don't think you should ever force somebody to use your settings. But now you know about that. So anyway, yeah. So using folding when writing markdown, especially when training and recall learning. Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's a good point. If you're trying to do like a spoiler section or something, I can see doing that with folding. In fact, that makes me think maybe we should use folding for the tutorials that we're doing. Maybe I could rethink that. Thank you for that insight. We've been making tutorials that you have to do Vim-based tutorials, and that's a very solid use case for folding, would be to hide a section and have somebody kind of review it and then unfold the section in order to read the answer in Vim. And everybody knows I'm a huge fan of using Vim for interactive tutorials. I'm actually writing Learn Vim as a tutorial to replace the Vim tutor. So that's cool. That's cool. I'll have to give that a shot. I don't fold it manually. I don't know the command to fold manually. I don't use folding. It's colon something. Fold the minimum number of lines plus folding feature, fold expression. The fold expressions are different depending on the language. I don't remember. Does anybody remember how to fold manually? I don't do it. I think I might try it though. I really like your idea. Thank you for saying that, Rodix. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to actually add that to my other Learn Vim tutorial issue. Teach folding, then use to hide spoiler sections for a review. I could get behind that. I could get behind that. And you should probably learn to use folding. I don't use it. I don't use it. I'm not ashamed. Is it control using GUI editors? Is control left bracket? Hell no. No. That's the alternative for escape. I would never do that. Maybe that's another reason not to use it. Control left bracket is reserved for an escape alternative. Yep. So I would, if that's true, I'm gonna be mad. Mark trailing spaces as errors. Okay, there's what I was telling you right now, right? So this says mark trailing spaces as errors, and that replaces this says any white space at all up to the end of the line. And by the way, these are regular expressions. We learned those already, but they're basic regular expressions, which means that special characters like the plus have to be escaped instead of the reverse of that. Very, very weird stuff. Vim regular expressions, vimrc regular expressions are really weird. They're kind of a bastardized combination of basic and extended regular expressions and Perl regular expressions all in one. It's very, very hard to get your head around, but they do positive look ahead and look behind, which is not supported by other regular expressions engines because they're super fucking dangerous, because they will go into infinite loops under the right conditions. So this is just supposed to be a commentary. I'm sorry it's taking so long. Enough for line numbers and gutter with 80 colon. So this is something I feel very strongly about. Set your text width to 72. That gives you that complies with the 80 character standard. Now I'm totally fine with you writing up to 100 lines, 100 characters on a single line in any programming language. I don't care. Right? But if and when you are actually wrapping and you care about width, like if you're writing an RFC for the IETF or any number of other reasons, you should stick with 72 text width. People set this to 80 all the time, and that is just not enough to be super annoying. As soon as somebody turns line numbers on or any number of things, boom, that one line now wraps with like 3 characters on the next line. Set your text width to 72, which has been the standard forever. And if you want to see where 72 ends, you can activate color column, and I'll show you that. And that'll put a nice bright color column that you should never go beyond. Right? I don't use that, obviously. It's super annoying. So, but that is something that you can do. Okay. Disable relative line numbers. Relative line numbers is, people love this. I don't like them. Was it Arnum? Set Arnum. What is it? Set relative line number. So this is, people think that having relative line numbers makes them look like a smart Vim user. I think it just makes you look stupid, because it means that you haven't discovered search-centric Vim usage. And if you don't know what I mean, stay tuned. We'll get to that. But mostly it means that you're still trying to use relative line numbers to decide how many lines you want to do a thing. And when in fact you should not be thinking in terms of line numbers, you should be thinking in terms of code. You should be thinking in terms of keywords. You should be thinking in terms of blocks. right? Those are the ways you should be thinking. You should not be using relative line numbers. I hate them. I just really hate them. I think they're a horrible idea. I've gone back and forth on that many times, but I don't need to know that I want. By the way, this idea of constantly doing math in your head about how many line numbers you're going to offset to get to do whatever the Vim function is, that cognitive overhead to do that math in your head is ridiculously inefficient. It's horrible. The better way to do that is to just focus on doing the same thing the same way all the time and using search-centric commands, which focus on finding keywords which are already in your memory and brain because you're already thinking about the name of that function or the end of that variable or any of those things. And those things are cognitively more valuable than to try to do all this bullshit math. How many times am I going to navigate? How many commands over do I navigate? I only do that in extremely rare cases where I want to find exactly 3 of a thing throughout the whole file or something like that. And usually at that point, yeah, I'm doing something that's going to be affecting multiple lines at the same time. And I can then go ahead and think about how many, 3 spaces over or whatever, or maybe I'm making a macro or something. It's also the reason I'm not a big macros fan. I mean, I do like them, but the amount of time it takes to write the macro is usually longer than it takes to just do the thing repetitively using another command. So I am not a fan of doing math constantly in my head in order to use Vim. I use search centricity, which is covered in Learn Vim, the tutorial that I'm writing to replace VimTutor. I think it's the best way to learn to use an editor of any kind, and not to mention the fact that the cognitive habits that you get to do the searching also apply to use of web-based, text-based analysis or searching through a pager when you're looking through text files. The same cognitive memorization skill, whatever, that applies to editing files applies to all of the other things, and it's just one less thing for you to think about because it just works everywhere. It also works from the command line when you're editing your history using set-ovi. So you get, the simpler, the better. The fewer things you can think about, the better. All right. So, yeah, the shift command can be used with search as well. Right. Yes. And yeah, absolutely. The shift command is super awesome too. You can jump precisely to the line, not necessarily. Yeah. Yeah. For that, I just use capital G or whatever. Step by step interactive mode. Most of them were disappointing because the people that try to teach you Vim don't know Vim. They haven't been using it, including the VimTutor. I said this before. The VimTutor was created by a bunch of college freshmen who never actually learned how to use Vim and figured they would help other beginners. Learn something before you teach it to other people. Makes tilde effectively invisible. If you want this, you can use it. The tilde, by the way, is blank line. And I've changed my mind on this more or less all the time, right? Sometimes I actually want a blank line. You see, this one actually... I'm okay with the blank line. Let's just put it that way. Oh man, it looks like it turned it off again. I don't know what's going on there. And I know what it was. It's because I changed my highlight color. Yeah. So anyway, you can play around with the highlighting stuff. Actually, the highlighting is. We're gonna get to that a little bit later. We got a long way to go. We got 60%. This is gonna be a long video. I'm sorry, but I'm finishing today. Whether it takes me forever or what. When does Learn Vim release? I don't know. This week, next week, it'll be here soon. Disable. You can follow production on it. It's rwxrob/github/rwxrob/learnvim. It's not ready yet, but it's getting there. Disable spell cap check. Set spell. Set spell is a tough one. The reason it's off is because sometimes I don't want to see all the spelling problems. We did another thing too. We didn't cover in the tutorial, which I'm going to go put in here. Cover spelling and dictionary. That's not covered at all in any tutorial, and I can't believe it because it's like one of the most important things you'll ever use. So the reason it's off is because I don't always want it on. So like particularly if I'm editing Go code. So like if I am oh god, when I klog in. So if I'm editing my code here, there's no comments on that. If I'm editing code root Go, so you see here, you see how that it's not really a incorrect word. It's just a a thing. Now my Go code has got spelling turned on by default. You see right here, it's like it thinks it's incorrectly spelled, so I have to add in that was a ZG to add it. If you do ZG to add it, right? So as you can see, it's kind of annoying because if it's going to spell check your stuff, you're going to have to add, symbols to it, to your dictionary in order to get them to work. So sometimes not having spelling on is more valuable depending on the type of code. But a lot of times when I'm going through, I can't tell you how many times I've missed a spelling error in my comments, in my inline, code comments, because I was, I didn't want to deal with it and I forgot to turn it on in my final edition. So I will tend to leave it off, but in Go, I've got it turned on by default these days so that I can see my comments and know when stuff is correct. Of course, when I'm editing my Zettelcast, then I have it on all the time, and you can have it. There's a number of things you can do to have certain things turn on depending on the type of file. We haven't got there yet. That's at the end of my vimrc, but that's really important to know how to do that. To know how to change the type of a file because it's not being auto-detected, and to know how to have certain rules applied to a specific type of file. I think that by itself is worth learning enough VimScript to do that. So we'll get there. More risky but cleaner. No backups, no swap files, no write backup. I hate when it writes a little, if you have these off, it'll create a file all the time with a little tilde at the end of it. Hate that stuff. Make a backup file before overwriting a file. I don't like it because I always have to clean up the files. And if you are paranoid, you can turn them on. I don't like them. I just think it's a waste. It's like the first thing I turn off if I'm on something. Language dependent. I think so, yes. Bash shell checking is horrible. So set icon. I don't even know what that is. When an icon in the window will be set the value of icon string or to the name of the file being currently edited. Only the last part of the name is used, overwritten by icon string option. I don't know what that is. I don't know what that is. When Vim is compatible with Alex 11. I don't think that is that applies. Scroll off. Oh, if you wanted to, this is crazy. Watch this. Have you ever seen this? Watch. Look at that. That's kind of cool, huh? This actually, you could argue that this is the best way to stream because it keeps the context, it keeps everything centered. Isn't that cool? Why is mine off? I think it's because it gets annoying. Like if you get to the top of a file, it goes all the way to the top. Yeah. But oh, I know why. I remember why. I remember why I disabled it. Because sometimes you get a function that's so long, it'll fill one entire screen. And so you keep going down to get the function to fit on the screen, but your cursor's not on that spot. That was why I turned it off. So, yeah, that's why I turned. I mean, but if you're like just reviewing something, it's kind of cool, But because you want to be at the top of the function so you can cut and paste the thing or something. And so it stops that from happening, which is a little bit annoying. I mean, you could actually turn it down so that it's like 1 or 2 lines away. So it gives you a little bit more buffer, but you can play with that. Highlight search hits. Yeah, I don't know why people would ever have these off. And Vim, it's like so amazing, especially this, watch. So let's click on, so if I get on set and just all I'm typing is star, shift 8. And now it automatically searches for that word, right? It's like let's say I want to search for the word the, I can push the star and it goes up and it highlights it as red on your screen. My current settings also do incorrect spelling as red. So that's what's up with that. By the way, if you want to clear the last search history, my vimrc is set to use Control L, which also does a screen refresh. So if you've accidentally had log messages from the console or something, so Control L is built into Vim, has been forever, and that clears your screen. And in my case, also undoes the search hits, and you'll see that down below. We'll show you. So let's see, ink search while typing a search command, show the pattern. Yeah. Okay, HL search is the highlight. That's the one we just showed. Line break. What? Vim will wrap long lines at a character at break at rather than at the last character that fits on the screen. Unlike wrap margins, this does not ensure EOLs. Why is that there? I don't know why that's there. If on Vim will wrap long lines at a character in break at rather than at the last character that fits on the screen. And visually indented, then the value of show break. I think this has something to do with searching, but I don't know, honestly. I just don't. Okay, this one I spent, God, half a day trying to figure out these two right here. This here, it's almost impossible to show you this without it happening, but I guarantee you when it happens, it'll drive you nuts. So there are certain circumstances where when you open a file, it won't close unless you hit enter, because it'll say hit enter here to close. And I guarantee you, as soon as you hit that problem, you'll want to know about this. And that's what that is. So this option helps to avoid all the hit enter prompts because the file messages, for example, Control G to avoid some other messages. And it is annoying as hell. I am a big set paste user, yes. Have to be. Most of the time when I'm doing I just paste and I don't care because I have linters and reformatters that'll work and I don't have to care. I don't care. So, all right. Now this next one, I could do an entire video just on this one. So I'm going to tell you a story about this one. All right. I'm going to tell you about when and where and how I learned about Vim info truncated buffers and why you should never, ever, ever trust a Vim buffer for anything. I don't use Vim buffers at all. The most you'll ever see me use a Vim buffer is something that fits on a screen or two to move it around in the same file. On occasion, I'll forget and I'll use it. So in order to understand this, you have to go back a little bit to understand. I'm going to tell you a story. So in the old days, the way to save off a big chunk, so let's say I wanted to save off these two lines, right, would be to do a thing, and Vim buffers equal RAM too on top of that. Yeah. So to do a buffer like this, you know, I would say that, and then I would say this. I would say I want to write those lines to temp my buff, right? The way that I'm showing you right now works in every version of VI that's ever existed and does it reliably and safely. Okay? Vim buffers do not do anything reliably or safely. If you come to depend on them, I promise you, you will be burned by it. And I'm going to tell you my story about how I was horribly burned by this once. So I just made a new file called myfoo, right? And I can go look at myfoo and I can see it. Okay. So as you can see, that works, right? Another thing that also works is filter commands. So the lovely, wonderful filter commands, right? So I've actually created a filter command that's called YYY. And what does that do? That takes those lines that were sent to it, prints them out again so that they're replaced. It doesn't look like they move anywhere, and then saves them to a file called temp buff, right? And it's guaranteed to be there every time, all the time. Guaranteed to not break. Do the same thing here. It blows away my single buffer, but I don't care. Why? This is just my way of doing this, right? If I want to delete those lines and save them, I have another filter that's called DDD. And when you know what about the filter commands, and by the way, the thing is so cool about this is that I can actually use my buffer commands in code. So I can type PPP anywhere and it will print out the last buffer that was saved. And by the way, if you look at these commands, look what they are. Cat, let's say VS, why? It just reads the line, writes it to buffer, and DDD. It just reads the line from the buffer. That's it. Those are filters. Why did I add those filters? Okay, so here's my story You like that? People like that idea. Okay, so the thing that's so cool about that is I can now use my stuff in shell scripts. So I can say ppp pipe sed whatever, right? So I can say ppp type to sed. Again, Unix filters, people. How many times do I have to say how awesome Unix filters are? They are just so freaking awesome. Short. We could copy. Let's copy short to short. All right. How about that? So now I can take the thing that was just saved into a buffer and do that. And if I wanted to, I can just cat temp buffer or whatever. I can even edit temp buffer. So let's be real. You only need one buffer, and that buffer should never be a buffer. It should be a fucking file. God, I've been swearing a lot today. I'm sorry, but it's important that you really get this. And let me tell you my really sad story. And some of you are going to go, "Oh my God, you're such an idiot." All right. So what this does, the reason I know about this line is because here's the story. I was editing a file, a rather large program, and I don't remember if it was Shell or Bash or Go or something. I can't remember. I was editing a rather large file. It was getting around 8,000 lines or so. It was getting big, and when you're even in Vim, if you're editing a file that's that big, everybody knows it's sort of annoying to navigate around into the thing. And I tend to my files tend to be no more than 1,000 lines. If I got 1,000, 2,000 lines in a single file, it's time for me to start thinking about maybe using additional files. The reason I think that when I'm organizing code, that I like that is because anybody browsing the directory can get a pretty interesting idea of what file they want to open. They don't have to open every file and search through them to get what they want. And whether they're just using a standard terminal or they're in their editor or IDE, whatever, that's just my way of going about it. So I was going about the normal process of factoring code, which means I was taking this 2,000-3,000 line thing, and I was like, okay, so about half of this stuff, everything from here on down, line 1,000, 2,000 on down. So these, 2,000-3,000 lines of code, I want to put those into another file. And instead of depending on the age-old thing that I had been taught, diligently by the graybeards and the people who taught me, which would be what? You would go to that line, and then you would do a command, and you would write everything from that line down to the end of the thing to another file. And then you would append that file to another thing. That process works today. It worked yesterday. It works forever. It's guaranteed, drop dead, impervious to problems, assuming you're writing to writable file systems. And you'll know right away because it'll tell you, "Oh, I'm sorry, you can't write to that," right? What won't work is the default Vim info setting, which has a maximum buffer size of some ridiculously god-awful small thing that doesn't give you any warnings. So this is what happened. I was like, okay, for this one time, I thought, okay, Vim lets me copy and paste buffers between files, which I always thought was weird, but I was like, okay, I'll use it, right? So I just did my thing. I did, like D, capital G, like that, right? All well and good, right? Okay, I'm going to close my file. And then I went to go type into another thing. I went to go say, okay, .vimrc2 or something. And then I went P to go paste it. And as you can see, it does do it, right? But I went to P and that sounds weird. I went to P and sure enough, it got like a lot of the files. And I went to compile my code or something. I went to run my code and my code didn't work. Why didn't my code work? Because the buffer quietly, the buffer quietly truncated up to the amount of buffer size that it had with no warning whatsoever, and it dropped all of that fresh new code that had just been written and not saved to Git. In fact, I was refactoring the code right before I did a Git commit, which meant that I lost a day and a half of work writing that code. And you only do that once, my friends. You only do that once. You do not do that more than once. I'll tell you that right now. You do not do that more than once. Yeah. You do not do that more than once. So the moral of the story is this. Don't ever trust Vim buffers. Don't do it. Not only will they not work when you're using VI, but they're not necessary. It's better for you to memorize the method of saving to a file that has been used by Ed and VI since the dawn of time, and is no harder, really. It's really not that much harder, as I showed you earlier. So just don't do it. And by the way, just to save you from that one time that you might do it on accident, add this line. This line, I can't even decipher what it means now, but this line saves you from that shit by bumping up the memory. So if you exit Vim and later start it again, you would normally lose a lot of information. The Vim info file can be used to remember that information, which enables you to continue where you leave off, unless it's too much information. The Vim info command line history, contents of the non-empty registers, marks for several files, file marks pointing to files. So this is the Vim info file does not support in some things. Use a session file. The difference is the Vim info file does not depend on what you're working on. Blah, 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 blah. In fact, it doesn't even say anything about buffers here. So, I mean, it took me a long time to search what the hell happened and add that line. So it's taken me 20 minutes to tell you the story of it. Hopefully that's enough to keep you from ever doing that and making that mistake. But make sure you do that, and that'll get you a nice big old Vim info file. That info file, by the way, is something that you want to lock down with security because everything is saved there, right? It's not the kind of file you want to dump on a streaming session on Twitch because it's going to have a bunch of stuff in there that you're not going to want to blow up. Okay. All right. The rest, we're going to get to a section here that's going to be mostly formatting. It's going to go really quick. So, not a fan of matching brackets. I don't like this. So matching brackets is when, what is it? I don't even remember it. Is it %? I think it's, oh, there. No, that's not it. What is it? I can't remember it. Is it %? It's not %, is it? I don't use it. Anyway, I turned it off. I don't like matching parentheses. The thing what it does is this will jump to it and then jump back, and it'll show you where your parenthesis matches are. I don't like it. Wrap scan. Normally, I want my searches to wrap around. I don't know why you wouldn't want to do that. No wrap. Okay, so I've actually disabled no wrap. This does not have anything to do with searching, by the way. This one here is about how to wrap your file. Let me show you a time when you don't want that on. I turned that off recently, actually. So I've been working on this K-login tool. And I've been editing don't worry, there's no CA or anything in here, but I've been working on my kubeconfig file. And you see the certificate authority data? See how nice and easy this YAML file is to read? You know how it's not nice and easy to read? With wrap on. Now that's the same file with wrap on, right? Set no wrap. So I actually don't like wrap on, particularly when I'm dealing with YAML files. In fact, by default these days, I just leave it off. If I need it for some reason, another thing too is like, I can go to the end of the file, right? Just push W, whatever. I can go to the end and it will, modern Vim will scroll over the way it's supposed to, right? So, and I can kind of like have it go off the screen. So I prefer that. Now, when I'm editing Zettelkasten files, when I'm editing Zettelkasten files, these are actually auto wrapping. And this has actually something interesting going on. This is a single file, but it's wrapping, and I can maneuver the up and down arrows inside of it, even though it's a single line. So I have very specific settings for Markdown because I want them to be single big old long lines. I want them to wrap so I can read them, but I also want them to still be a single line without having to run FMT every time I redo the line. If I were to do FMT on the line like that, now it's all been wrapped to 72 characters, right? And it still does everything else, but you can see the thing where it does that, right? So when it comes to Pandoc, I'm just using my Z tool there, but when it comes to Pandoc, you'll see about that. Yeah, wrap on, wrap off. We're going to get to those settings for that. So I have no wrap off by default. And then again, all of the settings in your vimrc are subject to change depending on how, what's been done, depending on what type of file you're editing. And so other stuff would be overwritten a lot. That's why it's important that you learn how to do set, because this will show you whatever your settings are. and you can see every single setting and what it is at for the current type of thing that you're working on. All right, this section right here is, I'm just going to skip it. I want to show it to you though. These are the specific formatting rules that are changed per file type, but this is the default. And most of the utilities has been superseded, as I was just saying. So, oh, I got a blank space there. And I wrote this myself. I didn't cut and paste this from anybody. I broke it out into a single line, and I tried to document what each thing does, but you might have different things that you want to do here. Unfortunately, these are all things that are set in this big, long format string that's just got one letter in it. And actually, if you do this on any system, you'll get to see what your formatting is. It's really cryptic, and it takes a long time to understand it. So I don't understand it. I had to break it down and keep going with it. I actually found fold, which is completely wrong. Yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting. It should not have done that. It should have done format. So there we go. Format. That's a different thing. Format options. FO. Here we go. This is a sequence of letters that's described. Automatic formatting is done. When the paste option is on, no formatting is done. Commas can be inserted for readability. To avoid problems with flags that are added in the future, use the plus equals minus equals feature and set. That's what I did. This option is set when the VI default value of compatible. I mean, it's really, really dense. This is actually when people criticize Vim RC for being really cryptic. That is 100% one of those things. I can't tell you how long it took me to finally get that. So there. You can actually access environment variables by just doing all caps. If you want to do certain things on Mac, I had to make backspace on Mac work, so that's what that's about. Stop complains about switching buffers with a chain. Oh yeah, when off a buffer is unloaded is abandoned. When are still buffer hidden is abandoned. Yeah, I don't use buffers in Windows. I don't like that. It's just annoying, and it's not VI compatible. Command history set to 100. That's obvious. If there's a syntax, go ahead and enable it. Plugins need syntax, but sometimes there's no syntax compiled in to the Vim. I've had a Vim before that didn't have syntax enabled in it in the binary, and so I had to put that there. T2I fast. This is one that will get you if you don't turn this on. You'll be wondering how come it takes you so long to scroll through, and make sure you turn that on. File sensing plugin. Obviously, you need this. You just need this. This senses the file type. High contrast for streaming. This is an ancient backgroundy kind of thing. Okay, and then we get into colors. Okay. When people say, how did you get your Vim to appear with those colors? Are you using what are you using Groovebox, whatever? I'm using a couple of things that are combined together. So I'm using Groovebox, but I've using the Groovebox syntax plugin, but I've also customized my colors further, based on the assumption that I have Groovebox friendly, right? So there are a lot of things that Vim does with Groovebox that look just absolutely butt ugly. And so this is me tweaking them. And you can learn all about highlighting. Highlighting is actually kind of fun. It's a fun rabbit hole to go down. But it does allow you to do things like this. This is how I made this kind of this darker color. I like kind of muted colors in the background. So rather than just white, like blaring. So you can play around with those and Matt might give you some ideas for how to mess with your colors. But, that's what's going on there. I do remember the C stands for colorized terminal. There's another one that's for like all terminals, but you'll have to just read about it. If you want to see what all your highlighted colors are, you can just type HI, and that will show you what all of your colors are currently. And you can go through there and look at all of them. Yeah, don't use shfmt. Are you using, do you still have do you have my old one? I think you probably have my old one. Yeah, if you're using my dot files and you have shell fmt on, we need to change that right now. Yeah. So if anybody's playing around with my dot files and they're editing files and their bash RC is getting wiped out, it's because I recently activated shfmt and I realized, here, let me just show you. Yeah, I think you're still using the old one, so I'm glad you said something. I'm sorry, I blew your bash RC away though. Okay. I have to tell you the story. So somebody at work said, hey, we should be using shfmt for everything and we should format all our stuff, right? And I said, no, we don't want to do that. It's really dangerous. I don't want to do that. And they said, well, what do you mean it's dangerous? And what I had in here was an auto format option so that it would auto format on save. Yeah. Do you have the old one? Because this new one doesn't have it in there. Which one do you have? Can you find the line that says shfmt in there for me and paste that? So, yeah. So this is a bug in shfmt. Okay. If you can find me the line in there, actually it's probably in my history. I can go look for it. My get history. Wait, log. Yeah, fixed control K, add go releaser. Oh my God, somebody showed us about .center. It was so cool. Yeah, I don't see it there anymore. Is it still there? There it is. Add shfmt on Vim shell to write scripts. Yeah. All right. So, yeah. 287. Okay. Thank you. So if you happen to have an old vimrc of mine for probably like a week, maybe even a couple days, somebody was telling me that I should use shfmt for everything. And I said, no, I know that's bad. And I couldn't remember why it was bad. And so I added it back. And I blew away my shell scripts and with reformatting, and I was like, what the hell? And then I found out why, and then I removed it. So that you don't hit the same error as me, this is going to come up when we do shell scripting later as well. But to 287. Oh, yep, there it is. It's still there. So if it's format shell, go ahead and format. Yeah, it's still there. We got to get rid of that guy. We got to get rid of it. So, fix me bug report to shfmt. All right. So don't comment that line out. What that does, my friends, is that does the automatic formatting that I was talking about, right? So like if you're editing shell on save, it will run it. It will run it, and it will replace the current buffer with the output of shfmt command. Unfortunately, the creators of the shfmt command did not take they chose to write their error output to standard output like fucking idiots, and rather than writing it to standard error. If they had just left the file alone and written their error messages to standard error like every other program should do, it would not overwrite and blow away. So shfmt cannot be used as a filter as I'm using it here because of this stupid ass bug. And I'm either going to fix it and PR this, or I'm going to make a new one. Because I like the idea of being able to save your code anyway and then have it just clean up all the formatting. But if you do that right now and you have anything wrong with your shell code, it blows it away and prints the error message instead of the thing. It's really stupid. I hope I'm wrong. I hope the creators of shfmt actually have some way to do the right thing. But just to this be a note to everybody, don't send error output to standard output. That's why there's a standard error. You piece of shit. I'm sorry. This is not suitable for work. This entire stream has not been suitable for work. So I'm either gonna have to write it off and do the whole thing again next week, or just stop. But I'm sorry. That makes me so angry when people do shit like that, because I mean it ruins your day, right? Anyway, so let's keep going. So smart indent, list characters, foldable, ink searches, text width. Where are we? Let's keep going. I'm trying to make this fast, but who am I kidding? T2Y fast, plugin, dark stuff. Color overrides. Okay, so sometimes you want to override the type of color that there is here. So again, HI to get your colors. You can go through all the colors here. You can get all the colors and exactly how you want to look at them. In fact, if your colors, depending on your color scheme, if you see any colors here that don't look readable for some reason, you might take a moment to just change that color it generically for everything, so that when you use highlights, you can use the keywords instead of specific colors. And then when you actually do customization of a syntax beyond what there's already provided for you, you can then do it. So in this case, for Markdown and Pandoc, I am actually taking over the foreground of yellow. I'm making the titles yellow, and I'm changing it, right? I'm kind of curious to see what that would be without it. Let's try. So if I do Z same, all right. So that's yellow, right? So let's see what happens if I turn this off. All right, let's see what happens if I turn that off now. Oh, look, see that? Now it's just white. See that? It's nice having that title be. It's nice having that title be yellow, right? So that's not a part of Pandoc, so I just added it. So I want the title to be. I want it to be yellow, so it kind of stands out a little bit. So that's a good example of why you might want to mess with that kind of stuff. Etsy scale has a default, yeah. And so Markdown, Pandoc, operators, YAML, YAML block mapping key. Yeah, I changed my indent for YAML and Bash. I changed my. I'm using the shortcuts of these. What is SW? I don't know what that is. You know what I don't like? That this doesn't actually show you the SW command. It shows you that some random thing. Yeah. What is that? That's weird. It should show me SW. It's not -SW. It's something else. It doesn't show you the long form. Maybe I should use... I can see an argument for using long form all the time now. Yeah. I think this is shift width. Yeah, I'm going to use long form from now on. Yep. I don't know. I think that's shift width. Yeah, that's weird. I mean, SW is what it was. Maybe it's... I don't know what it is. I don't know what the short version of it is, and neither does Control K, so... Or Shift K. Markdown and Pandoc. Okay, so... If it's Markdown or it's Pandoc, I have remapped J and K to GJ and GK. Somebody earlier was asking me how that I kept the Markdown line wrapped and still was able to navigate down. That is how. Okay. So for Pandoc only, for Markdown data only, I want to be able to have J and K go do GJ and GK. That help. GJ and display lines downward. So they see this as display lines. Differs from J when lines wrap or when used with an operator based on it's not line wise. So normally J and K would be per line. So actually let me show you with that. So like if I do set, was it I don't know. So if I do... Actually, let's comment that line out for a second. Yeah, I'll open it back up again. So now, look. See, these are individual lines, right? And if I set wrap on, you'll see that they're big-ass long lines, right? And I've gone back and forth on this many times, but my current favorite way to do Markdown is to have each paragraph be a big-ass line. And the reason for that is because no matter what size my screen is, it works and it's readable. And that's kind of a Pandoc thing, but let me show you. So like if I split this in half, I can still read it, right? But if I FMT these guys, which is what I used to do, right? Let me do that for you. So these are now individual lines, which is also valid markdown, right? But watch what happens when I split the screen now. Not pretty, right? Not pretty at all. Really hard to read. So my preference in all markdown, a lot of people don't know this. They don't write as much markdown. I write tons of markdown every day. And they don't do this. And most of the people that don't do this are stuck doing this. They're like, why would I do markdown? I can't even get to the thing in the line. Like, how do I find it? I can't find it. I can't do line 1, 2, or whatever. And then you have to do search. So number one, if you're not doing search centric things, you're going to have a hard time. Number two, if you don't know about GW, who wants to type GJ every time though? Right? No one. So GJ, GK, that actually was a tip that somebody from the Twitch stream showed me. They showed me that tip, and I will be forever in their debt for that. I think that's really awesome to do that. That allows me to get all the benefit of a paragraph that wraps into the screen, but is a single line and still appears in terms of editing. I can still navigate around in it because I remapped GJ and GK. It's a Vimism, but it's a very good one. Very good one, particularly if you're a writer. And I do, I do a lot of markdown writing. So that's a really good one. I spent a long time on it, but it's worth it. I don't know what this is. It affects the C indent, re-indents the line in C program. Oh, this is like if it's going to continue to indent after you hit enter, I'm pretty sure. I don't know. Mine's just there. Edit, reload, vimrc config file. This is kind of cool. So let's say you're editing your file like I've been doing, right? Right? And you want to test your new changes. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, you can do, was it conf E? So yeah, I think that was it. Yeah. So yeah, it's just, if you type this word really fast, really, really fast, it will do it. So I don't use that very much. I don't know why I had that. It's kind of cool though. So this is a weird one. Oh my God, I spent so much time on this. Can I tell you? I spent so many hours on this. This is what gives you this down here, this beautiful little formatting down there. $E probably, or percent E as well. So this is the ruler formatting. And there are a ton of things you can put in here. I mean, you could read forever about how to do it. And if you do it too big, it's like there's a limit on how many characters you can have and stuff. I mean, I spent hours trying to get my ruler format exactly how I wanted it. But as you can see, I get this now down here, and I get my format and my percentage. So I'm a big fan of that. So without installing Hyperline, absolutely. Yeah, people who get NeoVim because they want that line, I mean, maybe it saved them. I mean, why would you install all of NeoVim just for that? Just go grab somebody's ruler format line and be done with it. So yeah, I think it's worth learning it, but it took me a long time. I'm not going to talk about it. It takes forever to read it. Only the plugins. Okay, we're going to talk about plugins now, and immediately I'm going to get shit. I've already swore a lot this time, so I'm going to keep swearing. For people who say that they should use NeoVim because the plugin manager is better, again, people complain to me about two things. They complain to me about, why am I not using all those plugins? I need NeoVim for all the plugins. And I'm like, no, you don't. You don't know about Unix filters. If you did, you wouldn't be using most of those plugins. And two, they say, well, why aren't you using standard Vim 8 plugins? Because they suck, right? They finally added them. The best plugin manager on the planet, and there are a lot of them. I have lived through plugin managers in Vim for decades, literally. And I've seen everything that exists out there. And I got to tell you how awesome June Gun's Vim plug is. And it's based on a very simple idea. Each plugin gets its own Git repo. Right? Now that's already been a thing, but it adds one other thing to that. Each plugin gets its own directory under Vim plugins. And I cannot tell you what an obvious design decision that should have been all along and how that has not been the case. And everybody's like, very, very good. Everybody's loving on this. The reason that this is so amazing is that you can put your plugin configuration inside what plugins you use. And in this case, it's only if I have plugin support, right? This section of my vimrc is completely ignored any place that does not have plug.vim. So if I don't have autoload /plug.vim because I didn't copy the .vim file over as well, it won't do it, right? This obviously has to have internet access. And I actually, this is now time for me to share the reason that I ship .vim along with my .vimrc. The only file besides the vimrc that you need is this plugin, is plug.vim file. Because if you have that plug.vim file, everything else can be installed automatically. So, yes. And so this lives here. So this is in Vim. This is the only file. Now, in the documentation, it actually tells you to create this file. But if you're going to copy, the only thing I don't like about it is you have to copy 2 files over. But I guarantee you, if you were to try to do this with a plugin, with the old plugin, any of the other plugin architectures, they totally screw up your vimrc and they put stuff in different places and it's not modular. You can't just take it with you, right? In this particular case, you take this one plugin manager, which tells you what to do, put this file here or curl it down, right? And then put this stuff in there and you're good to go. And then everything else just works. Yeah. Well, you know, the point of it is you don't need to run install plugins if you don't want to. Okay. So there's many reasons this plugin manager is the best one. And the first one is that it's entirely optional. So you can copy a vimrc over to something and get away with all your other stuff without really caring about your plugins, right? But if and when you want the plugins, you put vim autoload vim plug.vim down there, and this section will automatically be used because it will detect it. So then conditionally it'll say, oh, are we using plugins? Okay. And it'll do plugins. And then on its first call, it'll call Vim plugins and it will go ahead and load them all. Right. And, yeah, so this does not load plugins by default. So the first time you load it, and I admit, I personally can admit to not remembering to do or that's a different one that I always have to do, install plug install, right? And you run plug install, and that goes and gets all of these are all Git repos, and then it clones those Git repos into the .vim directory. And the thing that's cool about that is that every one of them is in an independent space on disk and is basically just cached, right? And particularly for things like Go binaries, the Go binaries, this takes a pretty long time to load them. But when you run this, it'll actually run through this dynamic thing. It'll show you who got updated and everything. And if any of the plugins have been updated, this is one I wrote. This is a plugin I wrote. There's another one I have that's not in here right now, and I don't know my name is in there, but there might be plugins you like. So, all right. So I hope that's enough for plug. Yeah, I hope that's enough for plugins. So let's talk a little bit about the plugins that I think are needed or essential. Honestly, the only plugins that I use are primarily syntax related plugins. People like to use code completion and a bunch of other things and Rainbow. And I mean, there's tons and tons of things that you can go look at. I don't even remember all of them. Actually, I've come to use them so much. So you'll usually only see the languages that I'm using here. I usually spend a lot of time in Pandoc. I don't have any Python. You know what? This section of plugins has gotten smaller and smaller and smaller over the years. as Vim has started adding built-in syntax support for all the modern languages, so I really don't need it. That's not the case for Go, and it probably won't ever be, because Go requires a bunch of really heavy-handed binaries in order to work at all. So, because it does not use a language server, and nor does it need it. And using VimGo is kind of controversial. Some people really don't like it. Some people really hate it. Some people think it's a standard. I tend to think it's the standard for development. I think either VimGo or Goland, which is the graphic, Go development environment, those are the two things that I would recommend people use. I really love Groovebox as a theme, so I added that as a theme. Bracket and paste, and then this nim, which is an unknown language. It's a new language that has to be loaded. As you can see, I don't have Python, I don't have C, I don't have, even Bash really, because the default is pretty damn good, frankly. I mean, even the default for Go, did you see over here? I don't have any here. Let me show you over here. I'm trying to find one that doesn't have any of my formatting on. Okay, here we go. So watch, if I do temp main, right? Main.go. Oopsie. Main.go. Does it not have Go formatting? Oh, I don't have, yeah, this is a VimGo that doesn't have it installed at all. So, I was trying to show you that the shell stuff looks kind of okay, right? So here's shell environment. This is, so you can see shell syntax highlighting is built into Vim. This is a Vim that does not have any customization at all. And I mean, I'm trying to find another thing I could do there. Install Go is another one. Anyway, so it's pretty damn good. I think it's I think it's pretty good. So bottom line, I don't even depend on my plugins. In fact, the only time I even miss my plugins is because I'm always doing Vim and Vim Pandoc. I'm doing that stuff on my own system, my home system, every time. I'm never writing Zettelkasten entries and Pandoc on anything else, so I don't ever miss it if I transfer this vimrc to another machine. VimGo, however, again, I also don't miss it because I'm usually not doing Go development on anything but my workstation, right? So Groovebox I would probably miss because I wouldn't get my colors, but I would still be fine. So the point is, if I copy my vimrc to a jump box that's got Vim 7, none of this stuff gets loaded, nor do I miss it, because it's not there. People who have built into their muscle memory dependency on plugins for things that are already supported within the default Vim end up being less efficient on other systems. Now, a lot of these people would argue, but I don't use a lot of other systems. And I'd be like, okay, use Emacs, use NeoVim, use whatever you want, as long as, and that would go for me using, Go or Pandoc or something. So I think that's all we can say about plugins. I'm going to move on. However, if you are using, there are a couple of things, and when we get to Go development, I'll show you this, but there are a couple of formatting the defaults that I'm overriding. The G colon, by the way, that's how you do variables and global variables in VimGo. If you're doing Go development, I strongly encourage you to consider these. I spent a lot of time enabling things that are disabled by default with Go. And I'm super happy that I added that. And I do really, really, really miss the meta linter. This has not been around for a long time. This is a thing that will show you, it would highlight in red on the screen syntax errors as they were happening. And that got broke at some point. I don't know where that got broke. And I don't believe that's ever been fixed. You know what? I wonder, I'm just going to try and see. Yeah, I'm going to try it. Which one was it? These two? That got broke. I was really sad when that got broke. So, because it was super powerful when it was working. Foo.go. Wait. ls temp main.go. Wait, let's go back to klogin. I mean, I don't even know if it's going to work. Finishing loading packages. I'm just testing some things with Go out here for a second just to see, because I'm kind of curious. I want to see if they fix that problem. I don't think they did. No, you get this the normal stuff. When the linter is linter autosave. When the linter was on and working, it would do stuff like that, but it would. Yeah, no sys file directory. I was afraid of this. Yeah, it's, I don't know. Go install binaries. No, the meta linter's not working. It broke. I haven't looked into it, but if you're into Go and you figure that out, please let me know. Yeah, I miss it. I really miss it, because that's actually something that got me to think about NeoVim, because NeoVim's Go plugin does that. It does show you like when something's not loaded or it has a problem, or there's like a syntax error. It'll highlight it red as like, you have a problem here, and it's very immediate in your face. Like if you get a spelling error that doesn't match another variable, or you know, so that's the kind of thing that I tend to like. But that's actually one of the few reasons I would ever consider you know, NeoVim over it. And frankly, if you're only doing development on the same system all the time, and I don't get myself married to like Lua-isms and NeoVim, I'm willing to give NeoVim a try if it could give me that stuff. If I could get the metalinter stuff from Go to work in NeoVim by default, because it has better support for Go, which I haven't even tested yet, I would be inclined to use NeoVim, as long as I don't have to fuck with my vimrc. If it makes me do anything different with my vimrc, I don't want anything to do with it. So anyway, Go PLS analysis, composites. Oh yeah, that was the thing we had to do before. So anyway, nmap leader, ilog print made. Oh, you remember that stuff I was showing you about putting like comma M and comma N? So I mapped some quick and dirty things to commands in Go, and you can do the same thing too. You can build your own up if you want, or you can just make, you know, filters that do the same thing, and you can use that for your snaps if you don't. Which, if you do that, that'll work no matter what, not necessarily if you have Vim, right? One of the reasons I like this, though, is that any of these things that you add to your vimrc, they travel with your vimrc, right? The only downside to using like YYY and PPP for filters is that if you want to use them, they have to copy those files over in addition to the vimrc file, right? So could be a case made to write your favorite things like that as, you know, this kind of thing, like have them be commands in vimrc or something, so that you would have them in your vimrc if you use them all the time. I mean, if they're really, really common, I would put them in there so they travel with you no matter where you go. There's really not a reason for this to be in my vimrc, because this is only where I'm doing Go development, which is only going to be on my main workstation. But if I were doing shell development all over, and I wanted some particular kind of formatting, or I wanted to input, you know, the standard filter idiom for bash coding on something, you know, that would be the place to do it, right? You could put it there, and that would travel with you no matter where your vimrc is, on jump host or otherwise. But, you know, a strong argument could be made that you should only be editing your files on a single centralized system in 2023. I believe this is the reason Emacs and NeoVim have gotten so popular. Even VS Code will do remote editing, you know, or you're editing on a Git directory, and then you're using GitOps to synchronize those things when they get pushed out, even onto a test machine. So this idea of being able to save and have it run on a remote system and copying the file over the remote system in 2023, it's a lot easier to do that, particularly with containers, than it used to be. It used to be that you were, you know, completely useless unless you had your vimrc on all the different files out there. So while I keep harping on, you know, the point about being able to use Vim everywhere and use VI anywhere, and I still believe you shouldn't corrupt your muscle memory with stuff unless you have to, I also do believe in 2023 it's fine for you to build up a workstation, particularly a containerized workstation, or a Vim, you know, a VMware or whatever, and put all your favorite things, all your favorite development tools in there, graphic or otherwise, and use that thing for all your development, and then just create more elegant ways to get that file to the place where it needs to be. And there's lots of ways to do that now with SCP and rsync, and that's the basis of the VS Code stuff. So even though I make fun of it and I don't particularly use it, it is a very useful thing in 2023 to be able to do that. So this is actually a pretty cool little thing. It's turned off right now, but this was back when I was doing Perl coding. This would, that whole Vim format thing, right? So this would run Perl tidy on my Perl code. I've been saying non-negative things about Emacs for the last 3 weeks. So I think Emacs is a perfectly good editor for those type of people that use it. And I'm not that type of person. I want to be good on any system and use Vim right away. I still think you should learn Vim and VI, even though you know Emacs. Format shell on save. If has eval Vim detection to do, check for shell format check, fix me, stop blowing away the file. That fix is not me. That is SHFMT being SHT IT. So call the position, buffer right, format shell. Vim pre-leave, this is kind of a fun one. And so this actually, all I want you to see here is to know about Vim pre-leave. Vim pre-leave is a way to do something to a file right before it exits. You don't get to see that happen, but you can do some pretty cool things, right? So you can, like in this particular case, this would replace package module repo or command with utility, and it would actually make a substitution, right? So, and this was a cool one. This has been disabled for a while, but back when I was writing a lot of Markdown for education, and I didn't want to have broken links, but I needed to come back to the link later. And fill it in with something, but in the meantime, just doing a search on the internet for that keyword was good. So what this would do is it would take something like this with parentheses, and to show anywhere through, yeah, and so this would allow, anytime I had a Markdown link that was empty, if I accidentally exited a file that way, it would automatically populate it with a link to search for that text, which is kind of cool, actually. And so they was using Perl inlines. I'd probably change it to set inlines now, just because there's more of a chance of there being set on a line instead of PerlPy. PerlPy and sed-i are with capital E is sed-capital E space-i are virtually identical. Perl's got way more powerful syntax for regular expressions, but in this case it wouldn't really matter. So whether you do PerlPy, that's a cool technique though. So I just wanted to tell you about that. If you are saving a file and another cool one is this. So this automatically populates buffer write post, right? So this is I think buffer write post is an event that's right before Vim leave. I think there's a number of events that get triggered right before your file saves, and knowing those events and mapping things to those events is really cool. That's how you can make auto folding. It's how you can make, so this one particular one is kind of cool because yeah, and come around to Emacs. I didn't say use Emacs. I said some people can benefit from Emacs. I didn't even say Emacs was a good idea. So now I can do this. I can say, this is a smile for you, right? And now when I save the file, right? I have to load the file. I must have it open someplace else. Yeah, there we go. And every time the file saves, it replaces that line with an emoji, right? Another way you can do that without doing that is you could just pass it. You can pass it to toEmoji, and then have it just do the line for you. That's using a filter. It's much less destructive that way. It doesn't filter the entire file for it every time. If I do it this way, it does it, but it causes me to have to reload the file because it made a change to the file while it was off, and so yeah, I mean, and then the toDuck one is like this. So you really should check out SKILSTAK sometime, and I can pass that to bang bang toDuck, and that'll actually put in a DuckDuckGo query to that thing. So again, using the power of filters to, add to your editability of the files and stuff. That's what we're doing there. And what else? Another one. What is this one about? Oh, Twitch. This one was if I did @username, it would automatically add a Twitch URL pointing to that user on Twitch. Okay, make Y consistent with D and C. I don't know why they didn't do this, but there's a capital D and there's a capital C, but there's no capital Y. It makes no sense to me at all. So that's what that's doing. That says, so capital Y yanks to the end of the line, right? Why don't you have that? You can't yank to the end of the line in Vim by default. You have to do Y $. You can delete to the end of the line, and you can Control C to the end of the line, but you can't capital Y by default. Why the hell not? So I added capital Y because I want it. So that's what that is. Better command line completion. Oh, yeah, I don't know about this one. Command line completion operates in enhanced mode. I'm pressing wildcard usually taps in vocal completion matches. Wait. Oh, this is only command line though. First match highlighted. Yeah. Yeah, this is not inline. This is the stuff at the end. Here's the thing. Here's the line that adds Control L, and it still does a Control L, but it just adds no highlight to it. So if you've done a search like I have and you want to turn the search off, you do Control L and that'll turn the search off. Otherwise, I mean, I used to like slash and search for blah, 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 and then just to turn it off, it was annoying. So I really love that. Omni completion. I do have completion on. I don't use it. Honestly, I don't. Completion with Control X, Control O. I don't use it. I don't. I'm trying to find a reason I might want to use it. So go. How about go? What is it? Control. I don't even know. What is it? Control X, Control O. Control. I mean, first of all, it's a Vimism that I don't need. So Control X. That was weird. Control O. Pattern not found. Omni completion. Control O. Control O. Wait, that's not doing it. Control X. Oh, damn. That's 2 Amber Alerts today. We've had 2 today. People are stealing those kids. I know. What the hell? I don't use tab completion. I mean, not inside of stuff, obviously. I mean, it doesn't even work. So that's been my... Yeah. I know you can do it. It's just not working in my language right now. You have to do it in insert mode? Really? SE Control XO. Oh, look. You know what I don't like? I have to use the arrow keys to navigate that shit. Who the fuck thought that was a good idea? I have to use the arrow keys. I can't even use the VI keys to navigate the completion. What the fuck? That is so stupid. Control P and N. Control P and N. Control. Oh. Why though? Okay, fine. Maybe I'll start using this more. Probably not though. Omni. Was it? XO. Pattern not found. XO. Pattern not found. Oh wait, does it have to be insert mode? SC sensing. All right. I mean, maybe I should try it. I said that I could maybe be convinced to use tab completion at some point, but that's not tab completion. That's just syntax completion. Actually, it is, right? Because if you doesn't tab do the first one? So if I do SC XO and then I do tab, it gets the first one, right? It's an Emacs key binding, right? I think that's why I don't like it. So yeah, if it's I guess it's there though for those who want to use Emacs and VI. Oh, here's the thing. So this actually sets the file type depending on the files that are inside of the thing. So even if they don't end in .md, it sets the file type. Very, 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 very useful to have that. So if you know that you're going to have a bunch of snippets and you know that the suffix is going to be something different than what Vim is going to pick up, this is how you do that. I have a file named user data, and that gets made into YAML. Anything that's keg that ends in .keg or is the keg file is the YAML file. It's an extremely valuable thing to know because so many things out there are not going to be picked up with the right type. There's actually a couple of them that I wrote from scratch. So I wrote this one myself because I was sick and tired of user bin bash and bin bash not being picked up as bash code. So this will actually detect bash using any number of shebang lines. And I think user bin env bash is already detected, but this we'll call that. If you wanted to, you could actually parse it apart, the first line, and get it. So it is worth learning how to do a function. I'm not going to get into it. This is how you do functions in vimrc. Display all the syntax rules. This is super. If you're writing your own vimrc, this particular command is worth its weight in gold. I got this idea from somebody. What this does is it takes over your the what is it dot. What did I map it to? I can't remember what I mapped mine to. I gotta go show you how to use this. SKILSTAK. I want to say it's not K. It's God, where is it? Oh wait, it's the SID. What is the SID? I forgot. Oh, there we go. Oh, mine's set to F2. Mine's set to F2. So okay. So let me show you this. So like if you're editing, if you're trying to get highlighting right, and you want to know what syntax you're on, where it thinks it is, right? What its parse tree looks like. That's F2. So you see down there, it shows me that I'm a pandoc list item. Remember that whole thing I showed you about highlighting? You see all the highlighting there? So pandoc, I can actually search through here, and I guess I can't search. I thought I could. Pandoc, I guess not. So you can look for pandoc list item, right? LMNO, there it is. Pandoc, where is it? Pandoc, anyway, I can't find it, but it's there. And anyway, what you can do is you can go look up the thing that you have to change, right? So if you're doing highlighting, being on a thing and just going F2 and seeing all of the syntax, this is what it sees, right? So you can make changes to any of those and they will affect that thing. So up here I can do the same thing, F2, and I see this is pan.htx, etc. Well, if you're doing your own syntax highlighting, that is like worth its weight in gold. And I did derive that from some stuff I learned online, but I wrote that mostly myself. Because what I wanted to do is I wanted to show all of the syntax rules for the exact current position. So if you're writing your own syntax language highlighters in VimGo, it's super powerful. This is not a beginner boost topic at this point. I hope people are fast forwarding and don't want to see this stuff, but it's worth going through it. Anyway, start the last page. So we're editing. Everybody's going to want this one. When starting to edit a line in a buffer after reading. If you don't have that, it will put you at the top of the file all the time, which is super annoying given how much I open and close files. People give me shit all the time for not having a file open and then going back and forth between panes and between two mucks or whatever. And I don't care because I know that I've reopened the file to put in the right place. And that's a Vim only thing. So, let's see, buffer right. So what is this one? Buffer right post vimrc, vimrc. I don't know what that's about. I don't know what that's about. Function keys. So this is how you map your function keys. If you want line numbers, I have line numbers pretty easily. Hey, look, line numbers, my friends. It's not that hard, right? I even have relative line numbers. If you really want them, just push F1, right? I don't have to deal with them all the time. F2 to show you that the syntax that I was telling you about, and the good old paste toggle. So you guys know you can't paste code from the internet without it sucking, because it'll put line returns on auto indent. So that's where you would either do set paste or you'd push F3, and then you can paste without it indenting. You'll know what I mean if you hit it. Set list, that's I usually type most of these, to tell you the truth, but that sets a list to show if I got tabs and stuff in there. I have cursor line set for F5, shows me my cursor line. I used to have cursor line and the line ending thing, but I mean that, I don't know. I guess that's some people like that. Spell, so spelling on and off is F7, and indentation. So leader 2 is set paste. Oh, I didn't realize that. I didn't realize it was leader 2. Oh, damn. I forgot all about that. I gotta practice using that again. I've totally forgot about that one. This is watch. So I'm in command mode, right? Leader 2. Wait, let me do it again. My leader is comma. So, comma 2. So that puts me in insert mode, and then all I have to do is right click and it pastes it. Why am I not using that all the time? Because I forgot about it. You know how many times I've added something in my vimrc and totally forgot I had it? We're almost done, I promise. What is this, 4 hours now or something? If you want to get good using the arrow keys, you can deny yourself use the not the arrow keys. You can deny yourself use of the arrow keys by turning these on. And what that does is makes it so that what was the thing for loading the vimrc again? Mine's comfy. There we go. It didn't work. My comfy didn't work. All right, here, okay. I did myself use the arrow keys by having a 60% keyboard. Yeah, there you go. So yeah, I mean, you could do, but if you turn these on, that's what I'm trying to show you. If I actually just found it. Comfy. Wait. Where is it? All right, so now we reread it. Okay, now watch. Use J instead. Use the J and K instead. I used to have this enabled by default for all my beginners in my lab, in my school, and it drove them nuts. I no longer think that you should force beginners not to use the arrow keys. I think it's a good way to get started, to replace nano, and then it's like an incremental change to go over to the JK stuff, because they can't really use the JKHL stuff until they learn insert mode really, really well, because obviously they can't type JKHL because they're navigating. So I'm not against using arrow keys. Go watch week 8 2 weeks ago if you want to look at that stuff. So I'm going to comment those back out. Whoops, wrong comment. In case you're wondering, I have been trying to figure out how to pass the file type as an environment variable to a filter. I haven't looked into that. I think that I think that Vim, when you call out to a filter, I think it might send an environment variable to that allow your filter applications to pick up on the data coming from Vim, but I haven't been able to confirm that's true. A better way to use arrow keys. This is, if you want to be, this is kind of stupid. If you want to do the arrow keys like this, you can have like a 1, and then you can do this. Wait, whoops. Wait. Let's see. Conf R. So now I put the arrow keys. Oh wait. Whoopsie. Why isn't it doing it? Why isn't it doing it? There we go. So the arrow keys make the number go up and down for some reason. I don't know why. I got to tell you though, having that off is probably safe. I've accidentally incremented numbers before that I did not want to, because I was just on the arrow key for some reason. So I don't like that. Better page down. This is like worth its weight in gold. Oh my God. So, this remaps Control N and D and Control P and B, which are the same in Emacs and which are the same in links and which are the same in any of the pagers. So you hold Control N and B, N and P, N P, N P, N P, N P, N P, and it goes up by a page. And I really, really, really love that. That's like something I've added. I added that within the last 2 years. I love it. Set tmx window name to name a file. I don't really like that. I mean, I could try it. Let me try it. Let me try that. Uh-oh. No such group or event file opened tmux. Why didn't that work? What is it? What is the GGDG? I don't know. I'd like to get that one to work actually. Yeah, that was experimental. It's not working, obviously. I don't know if that's these are auto commands, auto load commands. I would like to get that to work though. Actually, that's a great idea. Yeah. I don't know. Looks like one I was working on and I forgot. And then you have this, right? So, I put a bunch of like secret things, stuff that I wouldn't want people to look at in .vim private, Vim work, and Vim personal. And this loads those up, and whatever's in there overrides whatever's in my other stuff. This allows me to maintain a repo that's private, that nobody else is seeing on the internet, and still able to publish my vimrc so everybody else can see. We are done. That is the end of my vimrc, all 408 lines. I guess I tried to say it was going to be short, but who are we kidding? If you're fast forwarding through this, the very beginning of the video, just to recap, the very beginning of the video, I showed you how to copy the file over and just start using it, right? And there's no shame in doing that. Whether it's mine or Jess Frazzle or anybody else out there, there's nothing wrong with that. That's the UNIX way. It's been that way forever. There's no way you're ever going to master everything in one of these configuration files. And you shouldn't feel bad by not knowing it all. If you quit this video or you fast forwarded to the end of the video and you're now watching this, and I just want you to know that if copying just another one that's there and using it is fine. It's totally fine. But even for beginners, I feel like I really need to go through every single thing that's in this file, particularly the use of paste buffers and stuff like that could actually be dangerous to you as a beginner if you don't know about it. So that concludes this video on vimrc. I apologize for the swearing. It's hard for me to get through a conversation about Vim and terminal editors without swearing. I'm a horrible person. I know. I will do better. Anyway, so find a way to do that. Next week, we are going to be using tmux and screen, this thing that we're using to copy the screen here, that's got a clock built into it and all kinds of fun stuff, right? We're going to use tmux. We're going to show you how I prefer to use tmux in a screenified way. We're going to talk about tmux's ancestor screen and why it matters. We're going to talk about what a multiplexer is and why it's the only window manager you really need, and why it matters more than just managing your screen real estate. It's actually a great way to save a session that you want to be sure is around, even if you get a disconnection from the internet or a power outage or something. So there are lots of reasons to use a multiplexer. We're going to talk about all those next week. And we're going to focus on using tmux and scrim. And we will go through, if we have time, we will go through the tmux.rc file, and you'll use that. There will be some parts of it that you won't understand because they're written in bash. But then the week after that, so the week after next week, will be bash. And we are going to go to town on bash. We're going to learn all of bash scripting from beginning to end, from the bash man page, writing Unix filters and commands that you want to write for different things. And so that is in 2 weeks, if you want to tune in for that. And when we do that, as soon as we do that, then you will be finally so dangerous in a great way that you can start managing your own bash RC file. And at that time, too, we'll also have the debate about whether to use shfmt, shell check, what's better than bash versus eShell versus fish. We'll have all that conversation in 2 weeks. So next week is tmux, and a week after that is bash. And we'll probably do bash for 2 or 3 weeks, actually, because we're going to go through all of it. We're going to go through all of it, parameter expansion and everything. So do the beginners need to know the complications of bash? Probably not, right? But there's no better place to learn it because they're not going to teach it to you anywhere else officially. So we're going to go for that. You enjoyed the stream and learned a lot? Oh, that's nice. Thank you. So that is what's on tap. I don't need to tell you, probably already know, but after we do that, the next thing after bash and writing some code in bash is going to be learning how to do command line research. I already mentioned it earlier in the stream. We're going to be learning how to search the internet from a text-based browser, Lynx, W3M, both of them. And also, for the first time ever, we're going to explore running ChatGPT from the command line as a Vim filter. So I haven't got that working yet, but we're experimenting with that right now. That'll be a lot of fun. If you actually are interested in that, you might want to tune in my Twitch stream while we're just experimenting with ChatGPT from the command line. I'm not a huge ChatGPT fan, but yet another way to do research, so I'm not opposed to that either. From what I hear, it's useless unless you buy ChatGPT v2 or whatever. You have to pay the money. But I don't know. We'll give it a try, and we're going to write a command that queries ChatGPT from the command line, either using bash or Go. We don't know which one yet. So that's all on tap. See you later, YouTube.